entitled men leaving their drinks on our table didn't expect us to fight back until we did. So, I got into a fight with two people tonight. The reason in itself was very dumb, but God, I was just tired of it. I met up today with two friends, Clara and Jenny. We went out to a bar and sat on one of the tables outside. There was a TV on the bar, so there were many people watching a football match with different drinks. We got our drinks, and after a while, a man came, left his drink on our table and left. We looked at each other like, what the heck? The bar is literally 5 feet apart and there weren't even that many people. He could have easily put his glass there instead of on our table, but whatever. We kept talking and drinking, and after a while, there was another man who left his finished drink at our table. I can leave this here, right? He asked. He didn't even wait for our answer and left. Again, what the heck? We were annoyed, but whatever. Then came a polite guy, and he asked us if he could leave his drink on our table for a bit because he was waiting for a friend. It was cold, and his hands were freezing. We said, yeah, of course you can, man, no worries. He even offered to put it on the floor if it annoyed us, but we had no problem with it. Gave the drink to his friend, thanked us, then they left. And after a while, another drink was left on our table. The guy didn't even look at us, he just put it there, and it was obvious it wasn't finished. So I had enough. It may seem petty, but you aren't sitting on this table, therefore you can't really use it. If he'd asked us if he could leave it there for a moment like the previous guy, we would have had no problem, but he didn't. Rude. So I took the drink, got up, walked towards him and offered it to him. Excuse me, this is yours, I said. He replied, what the? Is it bothering you that much? Yeah, it is. It hasn't been the first time, and we aren't the bar. If you're finished with your drink, the bar is 5 feet away from you. A friend of his took the man's drink and put both his and his friend's drink on our table just to annoy us. So I got up, I grabbed the drinks, and I took them to the bar. I knew they weren't finished, and I knew they'd be annoyed, but that is what happens when I run out of patience. I don't care anymore. They said I was being ridiculous while I walked away, and when I came back, Clara was yelling at one of them and tugging on one of the men's arms. Oh, okay. I then saw she had my umbrella on her hand, in her hand perhaps, and I realised that while I was returning the drinks, they had tried to steal my umbrella and Clara was getting it back for me. Jenny had been in shock, but at that, she started arguing as well. They got more and more rude, saying how we had no manners when I'd been nothing but polite with them. It was only when they yelled at us that we started to yell back at them. We kept telling them it wasn't their table, and that if it was only for a moment, they could have asked us, and we wouldn't have minded at all. At one point, to anger us, one of them got dirty cans that had been on the floor and put them on our table. I threw them away while still arguing with them. One of their friends apologized to us and looked so embarrassed. Yeah, you should be. Like, what are your mates doing? They went away for a bit, and one of them came back for more, until we pointed out how he was a grown 50-year-old man harassing and arguing with women in their 20s over a table and a drink. The friend that had been supporting knew at that moment that they were embarrassing themselves because he came back and told him, come on man, you're an adult. If you want to watch the football match on the TV, then fine. And if you want to get a drink and there aren't any tables left, that's a you problem. If they'd asked like the third polite guy, we wouldn't have minded. But instead, they blew it up because that's how drunk and bored they were. There were even people on our side telling them to leave us alone. I feel a bit silly now that I have a more clear head for how I behaved. But God, I was just so tired of people using our table as if it was theirs at that moment. I never insulted them, by the way. When I say I screamed at them, I mean that I kept remarking how it was our table and to leave us alone. And there we go. That is the end of story 1. OP has left an edit, which I'll get into though. Edit. I'm seeing a lot of comments saying the staff should have done something or wondering why we didn't tell them. First of all, in my country, there aren't bouncers at bars. They are at discos. The concept of drinking here is very different to the American one. In my country, it's very normal to see parents drinking peacefully at a bar while their children play on a nearby park, or for their children to join them and have a soda or a non-alcoholic drink. It's normal for people to be at a bar with friends at 11 a.m. on a Saturday and having a drink with them. Secondly, most people who were outside drinking would go to the bar, get the drink, pay for it, then leave and drink it outside. Finally, it was busier inside than outside, and there weren't many workers, and the ones who were working were doing everything at once, with some of them acting as both waiters and bartenders. It wasn't very crowded, but there was still a lot of people they had to take care of. They probably didn't even see or hear what was going on outside due to how many people were inside. They were just two drunk, idiotic men, and we were able to handle them. It all happened pretty fast. Anyways, second edit and final edit. I've seen some people say that it's a public table. We weren't at the long bar table where people usually leave their drinks so that the bartenders can get them from the other side to clean them. We were outside at a small square table, and said table had 4 chairs for people to sit down on. Imagine you go to a restaurant to have lunch with your family. You get served your first plate, and a stranger suddenly puts his drink on your table. That is the kind of table we were on, but smaller. And there we go. That is the end of the first story of this episode, and that gets an upvote from me. Now I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Yeah, it's just annoying. Like, I don't know. It's not necessarily even entitled in my opinion. It's just like being annoying for the sake of being annoying. I don't really know what they're gaining from doing this, but you do see this quite often. It is like, it's very weird and creepy when it happens out and about. It's like older guys, like much older guys, just after they have a few beers or whatever, they just become super weird with young girls in particular. I don't know what the reason for that is. It's just strange. I don't like it. I think it's pretty disgusting. Like, I don't really know what benefit you have from putting your glass on a table and not putting it just at the bar. I suppose like you don't want to hold it, but what's wrong with just holding your glass for a bit? Like, I would just be standing there holding my glass. I wouldn't put it down, just drink out of it. I mean, is it that bad having someone just leave their drink on your table? Probably not, you could say. So there you go. Now moving on to our next story. My entitled sister tried to make me take her to go and see a friend on Christmas Day when the roads were covered in snow. So she drove herself while drunk because I refused and crashed. This is a terrible, terrible title because I do not care 1 second about the safety of your sister. I'm going to be honest. If someone is dumb enough to do that, genuinely, they deserve to die. As morbid as that might sound, that is honestly what I think. The people's lives that she's putting in danger by doing this, it's actually disgusting. It's one of the most selfish things you can possibly do, driving under the influence. You just don't know what effect it might have on other people. So I genuinely think that driving under the influence, even if you're not involved in like an injury or like if it's just a tiny crash, should have much more severe punishments than it does. Anyway, let's get into the story. My sister and I used to be neighbours, so to speak. I live in a sub-building rented from my parents, and she lived in a fifth-wheel trailer with her kids next to it. On Christmas Day, about 3 years ago, she and her visiting ex-husband, along with their kids, were outside having fun in the snow. I went outside to hang out with them, and at a random point, my sister suddenly asked me to later take her to meet a friend of hers because they were alone with no family at Christmas. I didn't want to do this because not only did I not know this person, but I know my sister well. If I were to have been her ride, I'd have been stuck waiting there for hours. When she wanted me to do this sort of thing for her back then, it was because she wanted to drink and couldn't have alcohol if she drove herself. It was also snowing and the roads were covered. I didn't want to risk it. This is not looking good. My truck is a 98 RWD Ford F-150 and I had no chains for the tyres. It's a heavy steel beast that could slip off the road very easily. I tend to call it a brick with wheels. I relayed all of that information to my sister, but she still got angry at me for not agreeing, and she couldn't mentally understand that her FWD car would be better on the snow-covered country roads than my truck. But I couldn't drive her with her car anyway because it was a manual and I drive automatic. She kept acting like my vehicle would do better because it's a truck. I explained that if it was a 4x4, then yeah, but it's a rear-wheel drive as opposed to a front-wheel drive, which means it's both heavy and it's got no front power to help keep traction on the road. So it would slip and slide and likely wouldn't even be able to make it back up the hill. Her car was smaller, lighter, she had chains and traction control. I also have very little experience driving on icy and snowy roads. She basically scoffed and walked away, and I hoped she'd let it go. But she didn't. After having fun in the snow, we went over to our parents' house and celebrated Christmas Day. My sister didn't speak of wanting me to drive her to see that guy I don't know while in front of our parents because she knew they'd tell her to leave me alone. But I got an occasional dirty look from her if we made eye contact. And when our parents weren't in earshot, she'd make a jab at me about how she'd do something like that for me if I needed it, and I should be doing it for her. But I didn't relent. My sister started drinking, probably in the hopes that she could try and guilt me by saying she was too inebriated to drive. But I didn't relent. As she drank more, her glares towards me kept getting nastier. That's what she used to do to get her away from me. She'd act increasingly bitter and treat me like the bad guy until I caved. Not that time. Anything related to vehicle danger, I have a pretty shiny spine about, so I just let her glare at me. By the time the party was almost over, she'd obviously realised her spite gambit didn't work, so she hopped her drunk self into her car and took off, even though she was drunk and shouldn't have been driving. She'd gotten a DUI a couple of years prior, so she knew better. She just didn't care. Thankfully, her ex took their kids to his house for a few days, so I wasn't worried about my nephews. I told my parents what my sister had tried to make me do, and they were pretty angry about it too, and they backed me up on my decision to say no. Not only because the roads were treacherous, but because it really wasn't fair to me to keep driving her places just so that she could get drunk. If she really had so much pity for this guy to visit him for a couple of hours at Christmas, she could have done it sober. As I said before, I didn't know this guy she wanted to visit, and my sister just wanted an excuse to go and drink with a friend. And if I'd taken her, I'd have just been waiting around for her for hours. My sister has no sense of being on someone else's time, especially when she drinks. Time to go means almost nothing to her. She could almost never stick to a deadline if alcohol was involved. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with her anymore. She's not dead, is she? She's not. This is all in the past, but maybe it's in the past because, yeah, you don't have to deal with her anymore. Later on, I was taking a nap when I was woken up to what sounded like my sister's car alarm. I looked out of the window and I saw a large truck I didn't recognize leaving her driveway. I went over and I knocked on her door to ask what was going on. She was particularly moody, and I doubt she was able to drink for the hours she was away, with what I learned later. I asked her whose truck I saw, and she angrily told me it was her lonely friend that I didn't take her to see, and he drove home behind her to make sure she didn't crash. I asked if the roads were really that bad, and she confirmed they were. I said that was a good thing that I didn't try to drive my truck on them then. And she very passive-aggressively said, "Yeah," before spitefully bidding me goodbye for the evening and slamming the door. I learned the next day that my sister had gone off the road and crashed, messed up her passenger side fender pretty bad, and she had to call the guy she was going to see to come and pull her out of the ditch. And then he had to help her get home once she'd calmed down. So she got a fair dose of karma that day. I felt most sorry for her car though. She absolutely destroyed that in the few years she owned it. That fender was just one of the many things to get broken because of her reckless driving. Thankfully, my sister doesn't live here anymore. We evicted her toxic butt in late 2023, and she's extremely bitter that we won't help her anymore. Goodness me, I mean, that is the definition of entitled. What a horrible, horrible girl. Ugh. I mean, clearly she's got a drinking problem. Well, I don't know if she's got a drinking problem, but just acting like that, getting other people to like chauffeur you around just because you want to go and get battered. You don't have the sort of like awareness to think, okay, maybe this isn't actually fair on them. You're just a clown. I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. That is it for the story. I don't really know what else to say about this woman. As I said at the start, like what I said at the start was pretty strong, but that is genuinely how I feel. I do think people that do this are just like the most self-obsessed you can possibly get. Even like without the driving drunk stuff. Can you not just order an Uber? Like, just if you want to do this yourself and take loads of time, have a drink, get really drunk, that is so fine, as long as it's only affecting you and the people that you're doing that with. If you're asking other people to come with you in the knowledge that they're going to want to leave and you're just going to be like, no, I'm staying and drinking loads, and then forcing them to wait for you to finish, then putting other people in danger, like asking OP to to drive their car when they don't feel comfortable doing it is actually mental, just so you can go get a drink. There we go. Okay, let's get into our third entitled people story, and then we'll move on to something a little bit different. Entitled mum wants victim charged after her son sends victim's private pictures around school. Wow, what a title. I am an attorney, and a few years ago, I prosecuted juvenile delinquency cases at the district attorney office in my state. The sheer number of awful parents I encountered was depressing, but not at all surprising. The deadbeats were frustrating and depressing, but the entitled ones were infuriating. So let me preface all of this with something you need to understand to do that job. Kids are stupid. All kids. The smart ones, the dumb ones, the good, the bad, the religious, atheists, mamas, boys, cheerleaders, and athletes. And I say this as someone who fully acknowledges that I too was a stupid kid. I once chugged a full bottle of maple syrup because I saw it in a movie. So you've got to try and look at more than the crime or their life circumstances. Please keep that in mind. If any of you have been around on my channel for a very long time now, you will remember a subreddit called r/kids are frickin' stupid. And that sort of just epitomizes, I suppose, what's just been said. Some of the stuff I saw on there, I'm still scarred by today. Can't quite believe what I saw. But anyway, let's go into this, knowing that kids are dumb. We already knew that, but thank you, OP, for letting us know even more. The bane of my existence in that job, Snapchat. Because the send nudes culture hits kids right around that 14 to 16 range. And I'm sure by now you all know why having a 15-year-old girl send you a nude is problematic. And of course, they have to show their friends or send it to others after breaking up. Yeah, I mean, I know that is sort of the culture. It's pretty ridiculous, but yeah, crazy. Well, instead of charging these kids for possessing and distributing CP, I found a statute pertaining to the unauthorized distribution of electronic property and charged that because it technically fit the elements and would keep the kid off of the sex offender registry if they moved. The goal was to teach a lesson, hold kids accountable, and make sure they understood that next time I could do it differently. The victims and their parents were also pretty much on board because there were actual consequences, juvenile probation. Plus, I always included the opportunity for the victim to talk about how it affected them in court and required the offending kid to sincerely apologize. Parents of the offending kid were always on board, except for one entitled mother who stopped me after court one day with her son to ask me questions. Here we go. She said, "You're treating my son, who was 15, like a criminal when he's just a kid." I know he's just a kid, and I'm not saying he's a bad kid, but he needs to understand how serious this is, because if he does this when he turns 18, this is a very different conversation. Okay, fine. Well, what are you doing with the girl? What's she being charged with? Oh my goodness me, has she genuinely just asked that? Crazy. Excuse me? I replied. Well, she did the same thing my son did, right? Why isn't she being charged with anything? Because we don't charge and punish victims of crimes. Imagine that was how it worked. Not only the perpetrator got sentenced, but also the victim. Get stabbed and die? Well, the murderer is in prison for life, and your dead body is as well. Super tough, but that's the way it goes apparently, according to this entitled mum. She then huffs again. Well, I don't think she should get off scot-free because she's the one who sent my son the pics that got him in trouble. She's just as guilty as anyone, and she started all of this. So because she sent the pictures, she should get in trouble? No, I am just trying not to yell right outside a courtroom at this point. Okay, well, your son sent the pictures to his friends after they broke up, and they made their way around the entire school, and this girl has had to suffer through that and everything that comes along with it. Had your son come to you when she sent him the pics and told you about how her sending him nude pictures offended his delicate sensibilities, I would have happily treated him like the victim of something and made sure the young lady knew how serious sending nude pictures to underage kids was. That's a good point. I mean, you still can't do that, but yes, in this situation, let's be honest with the context, she's obviously not the victim here. But he didn't do that. And we both know why. And the second he decided to take those pictures and send them to everyone, he victimized this young lady. However, if you think she should be held accountable for her actions because what she did was technically a crime, I'm happy to listen. Of course, I'd then have to take a more literal view of what everyone did here. That would likely result in me charging your son with possession and distribution of CP to make sure I held everyone to the same standard of culpability, and you're free to cut. At this point, the kid's attorney said sorry and whisked them both away, and he ended up pleading at the next hearing and offered a tearful apology once he heard in open court how much he hurt his former girlfriend. Entitled Mum remained silent when asked by the judge if there was anything she wanted to say on her son's behalf. Brilliant. And there we go. That is it for the story. Just got to read this comment right here. If anyone asks you to send nudes, send a picture of a naked mole rat. I can't hate on that. I really can't. Next time, because I'm going to be honest, I get asked for nudes a lot. I shouldn't joke about this. It's not in the context of the story, but I will do anyway. I will send a picture of a naked mole rat. There we go. We had an incident at our school with nudes. I think it's a pretty common issue. It's really bad. But when you have kids that, as you said at the start, they're not terrible people. They're just stupid. All kids are stupid. Sadly, this thing does happen if you know, they make a mistake or education perhaps isn't there enough, even though like it, you know, it's not, I don't really blame teachers' faults or, you know, the school they're in for this stuff happening. It's tough, you know, kids are kids, and with the internet, it's hard these days. But when you have an adult standing up for her child who's done something like this, how is this situation, like, how are we ever going to learn from this? When you have someone saying, okay, I know my son did this, but what about the girl, man? Like, she should also go to juvenile prison. It's like, no. I don't want to speak on her behalf, but her life is much, much harder now, objectively speaking, because of what's happened to her, which was all because of your son. It's a pretty crazy thing for an adult to say, but yeah, that is a definition of an entitled parent. Ex-stepmom feels entitled to a relationship with me after 6 years of no contact and ruining my childhood after she got in trouble with a preacher for lying. Update here says it's not good news. So there we go. And the great thing about this is, as we go along with this story and as we get to the end, I can ask Serenity Star live what was going on for a little bit more context perhaps. I think this is the first time ever on the history of my channel I've read a story with the person's story watching me and listening to me read it. So it's a privilege. YouTube lurker first time poster. I would like to thank Reddit tubers like the Click MK, Redditor. There we go. Finally a good one. Dark Fluff and Vincy. You could have just said Redditor there. Okay? No need to include all those other clowns. Obviously I jest. They're all actually phenomenal YouTubers. But there we go. 4, giving me the strength to get this off my chest. But after several years, I was advised to finally tell this story to people that aren't in my small town and know this absolutely entitled Dumbo. Obligatory, this happened years ago, but still followed me for ages afterwards. Okay, I am a 24-year-old woman and I am a child of divorce. My biological parents split when I was 4 years old. I just thought of something that would be really funny. If you deleted your story live and then it was just gone, don't do that. But it would be quite funny. I found you last, to be fair. I'll take it. And also, I was only joking. My mother started dating again when I was 7. A wonderful man, and I love him to death. But my absolute idiot of a father dated several women between the time I was 4 to 8. Half of that time he was in and out of my life as it was, but that's not what this is about. That's the difference there between men and women, I'm happy to admit. This is about his last girlfriend / his wife prior to his death. Rest in peace. My stepmother, who I unaffectionately called my ex-step female dog. Now, I will just say this. I have a Google sort of extension which swaps swear words, which I've turned on. I might turn it off actually, just so I can read this how it's meant to be read. Now you can see if you're watching on screen, it has been turned off. There we go. I will continue not to swear though, just for the YouTubes, just so YouTube continues to love me. Anyway, I unaffectionately call my ex-step, SB for short, you can probably guess what that is if you're listening, walked into my life after she met my dad while she was in a women's rehab group in my hometown, where my dad and his Christian rock band played. Very Bible Belt area of the southern US. I always had an issue with the women/girls that walked into my life because of bullying due to my absolutely insane name that this man gave me, as well as his first girlfriend, after leaving my mother, abusing me and my little sister when we were very young. Out of interest, is your actual name Serenity or not? I will ask Serenity Star. I presume that your surname isn't Star. If your name actually is Serenity, pretty crazy name, I will say. And I agree, ex-female dog is hilarious. But yeah, I feel like step is a stronger word. Serenity has replied, no, it's much worse. It's much worse. Wow, fair enough. Star is my middle name though. Okay, pretty cool middle name. Much worse, interesting. I won't ask any more questions. Let's get back to your story. Not to mention that the reason he and my mother divorced was because he was constantly on drugs. So I was very, very aware of what her rehab group was for, which made my skepticism even worse. She showed up one day when I was 8.5. I remember because it was summer and my birthday was in January. It was my dad's week, 50-50 custody, and dad was going to take me and my sister to our uncle's house to go swimming. But we were waiting for my step female dog. I still am not entirely sure what to call her. I can't say the female dog word. I'll go with step female dog. It was that day that dad told me and my, at the time, 7-year-old sister that they were dating and had been for 3 months without saying anything to us. For minor context, my dad screamed at my mum for not telling him that she was dating someone. So there were issues in that for me. Yeah, that is very manipulative behavior indeed, and yeah, pretty abusive to be honest. I distinctly remember looking at my dad, then at my step-female dog, then back at dad and her again, until I pointed at her and told my dad, she is going to do something bad. This was the beginning of our dynamic. Fast forward to not only my dad getting married to this woman, but me being used by her as a test subject for her psychology degree. She never finished this, by the way. I was 11 at the time and playing in my bedroom with my sister and cousin, waiting for lunch after church on Super Bowl Sunday 2012. My sister and cousin were on the computer that was in my room because we didn't have enough TVs. They were playing Movie Star Planet, which was all the rage at the time, and were using the camera feature. When the flash went off, I started to feel funny, to say the least. So much so that I started seeing red dots everywhere. I told the two of them, and my cousin made the joke that I was about to have a seizure, and to my surprise, he was right. Oh, interesting. So that's sort of what happens. I've never actually thought about what happens to someone that has seizures or is epileptic or whatever. You see red dots. I mean, I assume this isn't the case for everyone, but you start seeing red dots and then have a seizure. Jesus, very, very scary. Now, this next part I don't have much memory of, other than stories from my sister, cousin, and dad telling me after I came to. Apparently, the two of them ran downstairs to get a drink, leaving me on the bed until my dad came upstairs to get me for lunch. Apparently, I was having a full grand mal seizure out of nowhere, and my dad did everything he could think of to keep me from hurting myself while calling 911. I remember waking up a little in the ambulance and my dad telling me I was okay and I should go back to sleep, which I did. Next I knew, I heard noises, one of those being, "Touchdown Patriots," and my dad was cheering. The first thing I said after waking up was asking if he was watching the Super Bowl without me. That is when the room exploded. It was the first time since I was very young that my mum and dad were in the same room and not screaming at each other. Not the last, but that's a different story. I remember looking around after my eyes adjusted to see that I was in a white room, a hospital room, still in my church dress that I was going to change out of after lunch and before the game. My mum and dad called the doctor back in to check on me, and I was scheduled for so many different appointments after that, including a sudden re-entry to the hospital because we found out I was allergic to the seizure med they gave me while I was unconscious. Jesus, I mean, I thought it was bad enough. This part was told to me years later by my mother when I was about 17. Apparently, while I was passed out and getting tests done, my step female dog, instead of checking on me, called our pastor to pray over me. He was a good man, but I now have nothing to do with the Christian faith because of my step female dog and my dad. But because it was a smaller hospital and involved a child, it was only direct family allowed inside the room with me. Step female dog told the hospital staff that she was my biological mother. We look nothing alike, and she was 28 while I was 11. When my real mum showed up, the pastor who was outside the room told her it was family only. And when she told him that she was my mother, and thankfully one of the new nurses that showed up was a friend of my mum's, she was let in, and step female dog was kicked out. She lied about being your biological mum? That's mad. From what I'm told, step female dog got yelled at by our pastor for lying to him about my mother not having anything to do with me or my sister, when in fact she was very involved in our lives. Heck, I was supposed to go to her house that day after she got off work, conveniently right after the Super Bowl. Anyway, after I was released from the hospital and my mum took me home to her house, things were okay. I was off school for a week because the seizure came out of nowhere, and my primary wanted to have me come in every other day for checkups just in case. Things changed, however, when I went back to my dad's. I'd gotten off school after my first day back, and while I'm doing my chores, which was washing dishes that day, step female dog came into the kitchen while my dad was in their bedroom playing World of Warcraft and told me that it was all my fault that the church is mad at her and she hated me for it. Again, I'm 11, and this 28-year-old woman is blaming me for her getting in trouble with a man she lied to. Not to mention that she and my dad would tell me anytime I was sick after the seizure, it was all in my head, or you're overreacting, your pain can't be hospital level. Goodness. My dad was a Navy veteran, so he always used that line whenever I was hurting, not realizing that medication I've been taking for years made my pain tolerance severely low. Ironically though, they were actually sort of right, explained further down. That's interesting. How? You've got my mind ticking there, Serenity/fantasy. I'm intrigued. Since that day, we absolutely despised each other to the point that no matter what I did, I was getting Bible thumped, even going so far as to make me late for an assignment for my freshman English class in high school, because I made the mistake of claiming Greek mythology made more sense to me than the Bible. This still holds true to the day. I'm a practicing Norse pagan/moon Wiccan. She even got so insecure about my blatant hatred of her that she asked me to show her my messages between me and my counselor that I was assigned because of dual KYS attempts, not KYS, sorry, unaliving attempts. I was 14 at that time, and even I, someone who at the time was studying forensic science and had an unhealthy obsession with criminal minds and law and order, knew that was illegal as heck, and I told my counsellor about it at our next session. That nonsense got shut down very fast. Thankfully, she's been mostly out of my life since I was 17, when my father died of a drug overdose/withdrawal-induced heart attack. I'm so sorry. She and my father had apparently been on drugs again. Big shocker, and a personal I told you so on my part, and subjecting me and my sister to the fumes, which made me violently ill for several months, and we didn't know why until Dad passed. Goodness me, I'm not going to ask what drugs or whatever, I can probably work it out, but that is awful. The last time I saw her was 6 months after he died, when I turned 18, and I got the one thing of my dad's that I wanted, which was a 12-string electric guitar. Big music family. That is awesome. I did not know that 12-string guitars existed. 12? That must be massive. As in widthways. Crazy. However, that wasn't the last time she tried to make contact with me. Recently, while I was in college, already stressed out because of more health issues that stemmed from the seizure incident coming up and the sudden death of one of my dad's 4 sons, oh wow, step female dog started to spam my Facebook Messenger asking how I was doing, if school was going good, all this kind stuff, only to yell at me for coming out as a demi-girl, semi-non-binary that leans towards the feminine side. I was using they/them at the time, and she called me an abomination which was strange because I didn't tell her or anyone else about this outside my college friends who were on the other side of the country from where she was, back in my home state. Apparently, my one brother, who still has contact with her for some reason, told her about me asking to be called Sibling on our brother's obituary, thinking I still talked to this woman like my sister did occasionally. He was fully aware I hated her with a burning passion, but not exactly why. I'm not close with any of my brothers for various reasons, but that is besides the point. I'm just going to jump in here and say, in comparison to my family, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Not saying that's a good thing, not saying that's a bad thing. My family is very, probably boring, I would say, in terms of its structure and, not boring. I mean, it's great, but like, there's no drama or anything, which is obviously a good thing. There's not been anything like in the history of our family that's been out of the ordinary, I suppose. So when I'm reading about a family like this and all the crazy stuff that's happening, my step female dog was tormenting me over the phone while I was studying for finals before returning home to get medical tests done. Come to find out, I have epilepsy, autism, and a vein malformation in my brain that nobody cared to check after my seizure because the neurologist I saw in my home state at the time was an idiot and claimed I had the seizure due to low blood sugar, which, come to find out, is a massive side effect of the epilepsy and the malformation. I do have a blood sugar issue, but when I seize, it gets dangerously low due to a plethora of other issues, hormone and chemical-wise, in my messed up body. I now have to go to the capital of my home state after dropping out of college because of insurance issues and have a consultation with a neurosurgeon to see if they're going to put me through radiation or just cut the malformation out of my brain. I went to Facebook in order to warn anyone on either side of my family since my epilepsy was genetic, and I'm the first one to have it on either side, as well as update my cousins, who I still have contact with, in that part of the state if they wanted to visit. And unbelievably, my step female dog freaking commented saying I should go and see her instead. I nearly screamed. I was so mad that she was still acting all lovey-dovey to me, but thankfully my boyfriend was able to calm me down enough not to do something stupid, and commented himself that if any of my family wanted to stay in contact with me, they will keep my step female dog away from any information on my location and life. So far, only my uncle, my dad's last living sibling, and his sons are the only ones who still keep regular contact with me or my sister from my dad's side. I have little contact with my mum's family my entire life, other than one of my two brothers on her side. I have my fingers crossed that the situation gets better before I lose my whole mind, but I've got a feeling she won't come anywhere near me or our hometown because of how many bridges she's burnt here by hurting me and my sister. It's a small town. Lots of motorcycle bikers who happen to be family to us. Well, it's good to hear that they've got your back. Goodness me. I don't think there's anything scarier than like a gang of motorbike riders just all together. There we go. I apologize for how long this is. I just had to rant. She's been ruining my life on and off since I was a kid. And I hope with this, I can now have some peace away from her while I deal with everything. I am eternally grateful to my boyfriend for keeping me sane during all this stuff, as well as my younger sister and stepdad who've been helping me with appointments and paying for my medication while I work on getting my disability processed. Wow. There we go. Now for the update here, guys, I'm actually going to go full ASMR. And I'm not sure if you guys are going to like this, but I'm going to try and do one post in this whole episode in ASMR. Why not? Hey y'all, I'm back. And yeesh, did things get worse. So, for those who haven't seen part 1 of this saga, see the link above. But TLDR, let's just remind ourselves of what I just read. My stepmother blamed 11-year-old me for her getting in trouble while I was having a seizure. And even after being no contact with her for 6 years, she still wants to talk to me while I suffer with medical issues because her conscience is killing her somehow. There we go. As I mentioned in my last post, I'm supposed to go down to my state capital since I can't get anything done near me, which is 3 hours from my hometown. In the capital, my father's former wife, prior to his death, who I tend to call my ex-step female dog, lives in and out of rehabs because of her drug habit. Apparently, the reason she's trying to get in contact with me is because her rehab told her to make amends with people she hurts. You know who the only person she hasn't been able to get in contact with is? That's right, me. The stepchild that she called not only an abomination, but blamed for her getting in trouble and bullied emotionally and mentally from day one. Well, let me tell you guys, apparently this woman can't handle getting rejected for long. She came to my hometown and harassed my elderly uncle just so she could find out where I was, so she could have a sit down with me to, quote, go over what happened. First off, I don't think she came here just to do this. Her mother lives here and her younger creep of a brother is a street bum in our town who called me out while watching our Christmas parade with my boyfriend. That is very interesting in and of itself. It was super creepy since I haven't seen him in 7 years since he was sent to state prison just before my dad passed. Anyway, my step-female dog of a stepmother, pulled every card she could, even stooping so low to have her mum call up my younger sister, who was 23, who works for a dog groomer in our town, where she takes our old dog to get groomed. Now, my sister knows that I have no contact with my step-female dog and is respectful of that because after all these years, she's come to grips with the trauma that she left me with that haunts me to this day, but she was blind to it because my step-female dog showered her with affection just to make me jealous. That is one of the things that we see a lot with entitled parents, isn't it? They're very entitled, often narcissistic, but they aren't incapable of showing a lot of love to an individual. It's not like fair, and it's often very focused on one person or one set of people, and then there's a lot of hatred for someone else. I think we often see that. My sister and I are fine these days, but we did have serious issues growing up because I was neglected by both bio parents and my step-female dog, since my mum thought dad was neglecting my sister and showered me, his baby girl, with love. In actuality, dad avoided us both because of his obsession with World of Warcraft, that I later found out was his way of avoiding popping pills. Druggy's gonna druggy, am I right? Well, I was at my neurologist. I have genetic epilepsy and basically a tumour in my brain that I have to get cut out sometime soon. I don't know when yet. Let me just check when this was posted. 14 days ago. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that, Serenity. Just a reminder, Serenity Star, the person who wrote this, real name Fantasy, crazy name, is live in the chat right now. So I'm very sorry to hear that. That is terrible. Anyway, let's get back to it, and I hope that when you do have your operation, and you've said in the chat still no timeline on that either, it obviously goes very well, but goodness me. On my last post, they continue. Someone commented that it was possible that my epilepsy could have been caused by my dad's drug use, and that got me thinking. I asked my neuro about that possibility, since I'm the first in any of my family to have the condition, and let me tell you, my neuro lost her mind. She started scrambling to get new tests done to see if it was true. Now, for context, I was born as a sort of savior baby. That's what my mum called me. AKA, I was only born because my dad thought having a baby would keep him off drugs, and my mum wanted to save the relationship because she really loved my sperm donor for some reason. Well, guess what, guys? Neither worked. They got me and my sister, and when I was 4, they separated because, yep, you guessed it, Dad was always high. He couldn't work because he screwed up his back in the Navy, so Mum was our only source of money. And if you don't know anything about Arkansas, here is what you got to know. We've got trash jobs unless you're a farmer, and our biggest employer is Walmart. My town specifically, though, we have a lot of factories and bars, both of which my mum worked at during this time. Anyway, to tie these two situations together, my step-female dog heard about me having to get surgery because of a Facebook post I made to warn my cousins. She's been blocked on every social media I could think of, aka Facebook, since I don't have any other, and fingers crossed she doesn't have Reddit. Goodness me, imagine she did. That'd be terrible. Fast forward to after talking with my neuro this last time about the potential gene mess ups. I was immediately sent to the hospital to get labs done. And guys, oh my Lucifer, that commenter was right. I literally was born defective. That's really sad. You were born like that because of your parents, or at least your dad, doing drugs. That's so tough. Not only did the 3D meat printer skip some lines in my brain, that druggy dumb ass was so high on meth that my literal genes are screwed. I didn't even know what to say. I started bawling. Crazy. I mean, someone in the live stream has said, I can't believe this is your life. It's crazy to me that you're in the chat live now and I'm reading your story and this is what's going on, but unreal. Genuinely unreal. It was so bad that I was legit told that I was better off getting my tubes tied to keep from running the risk of having kids. Thankfully, my boyfriend and I agreed to not have kids to begin with, since with my epilepsy and his family history of it, we didn't want to risk passing it down. Not to mention autism being passed from the mother, and I, a very high-functioning, non-verbal autistic, would more than likely pass it down to any child I had. But this kind of thing really screws with you mentally and emotionally. I can't begin to imagine. I had texted my friends over Facebook Messenger about it because I was so upset. One friend legit got so upset on my behalf. She knew my parents, including step female dog, and was so angry. She has 2 little girls of her own and told me she has no idea how she could survive, knowing that she could risk something like that to her kids. We ended up at a cafe in our town to catch up because I was really needing a matcha boba tea and she wanted cupcakes, so it worked out. And guys, I nearly punched a woman in the face that day. Step female dog was in the cafe. What? This idiot ran up to our table, recognizing my friend, and the second she saw me, she tried to hug me. Hug me? I was having war flashbacks just seeing her. She kept talking, but I couldn't hear her. I just saw her mouth moving until my friend tried to push her away. Guys, I seized on the floor of the cafe. I was so stressed out by just the thought of this female dog that I collapsed. Oh my goodness. I had to go to the ER to make sure I didn't hit my head too hard. I got out that night and have been at my boyfriend's house since. Damn. I'm literally sobbing as I type this, absolutely terrified of leaving the house, knowing that she's in town. I don't know what to do, you guys. My boyfriend's been showering me in cuddles, snacks and matcha, Dr. Pepper, while my friends, including the one who was with me, are constantly checking in on me. And I appreciate it, but I already struggle with going outside as it's with severe agoraphobia, but now I'm so scared to be anywhere in this already godforsaken town. Sorry about this, guys. I just needed to vent. It's so scary for me, and I needed to get it out before I lost my freaking mind. I'm so grateful to Redditor. I think you've misspelled Redditor. Oh no, to be fair, you do say streams. I'm so grateful to the Click on YouTube, keeping me occupied with all his streams lately. They've been really helpful when I can't focus enough to work on my fan fiction or drawings. Well, hey, listen, this is my first stream I've done in a long time, and also this is obviously not about me at all, but that is the end of that story. Now, somebody said this on the comments on Reddit, which I really agree with. I hope the knowledge of your condition makes the path forward better for you, and I know that no matter what, you can and will find a way. What a nice thing to say. What do I say to I am a 45-year-old woman, boyfriend who is 44, who doesn't seem to realize he's just broken up with me? Pretty confusing title, but I think it will all become clear. Mood spoiler, do I click it? Sad, but OP is going to be okay. Okay, let's go for it. This was originally posted on February the 23rd, 2025, so only last month, but there is of course an update to come. I've been dating my boyfriend for about a year. When I met him, he had separated from his wife, and they were going through a divorce 8 months after separation. I don't usually date men who are only separated, but we just clicked. One thing I've asked from the beginning is whether or not he wants to have more kids, because I'm child-free for medical reasons. He's always said he wasn't bothered either way. The relationship with his children is very strained, and they don't like going to see him. Now the divorce is complete. I've warned him that he'll spiral, having had friends go through the same thing, which is usually why I don't date men in this period. But he was adamant he was going to be fine. He isn't. He's totally spiraling. I've suggested that he go back to therapy, but he doesn't want to. I've said not to just have these thoughts and feelings swirling around in his head, and to talk if he needs to. He started talking to me about his feelings, and one of them is that he wants to have more kids. Now, he said this in a stream of consciousness in a voice note. I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy. He's still texting as normal. How do I confront this? He doesn't really have anyone else to talk to. However, our relationship is basically over in my head now. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I think let's just get into the comments here, because there's more from OP, I think, down below. Somebody said on the original post, it sounds to me like you just need to be upfront and honest. Tell him he wants more kids and you can't give that to him. You've broken up with him in your head. It's not him breaking up with you. OP said, thank you for replying. I think a conversation definitely needs to be had. Somebody else said, well, it actually sounds like you need to break up with him. It's a shame how men tend to end up lonely due to refusing to invest in a social support network. But alas, women can only do so much for men. Break up and let him rely on a therapist to handle this life crisis of his. OP said, I've been urging him to reach out to old friends, but he doesn't seem to have anyone to have these kinds of conversations with. Then a couple of words on the strained relationship with his kids and therapy. OP said to that comment, you're indeed wise. So the relationship with his kids seemed awesome when we met. Then as the divorce arrangements picked up steam, they started having a bit more attitude and asking questions about finances that I wouldn't expect from children. When I met him, he was in therapy, so I'm baffled as to why he's so against it now. It was actually one of the reasons I decided to see where this goes. We've had very frank discussions about the breakdown of his marriage, and he's accepted what he believes is his part, and being from the same place as his wife, I could see the things I would also find hard to deal with. Getting an outside view would be hard because his family are on his side. He's staying with his sister, and they've been arguing because when his kids are being rude, she's trying to correct them and he's asking her not to. Okay, interesting stuff. Somebody else said, since you've had friends go through divorce, you know that some of the things people say in this major transition are just thoughts. They're just words. It's really important, IMO, for people going through divorce to get therapy. You can't assume that he realizes the implications of his rantings. You can certainly point it out. If you want kids, that would mean we're incompatible. Not sure if you're just having thoughts or if you're expressing actual intentions. I think that's a very, very good point. Like, I don't think just because somebody says something in the heat of the moment or, spews a few words out when they're just kind of like, obviously in a bad place, but they're just expressing their thoughts in sort of like a word vomit sort of way, that first of all, we should take everything literally. Obviously, it's not a good thing to hear, but of course, I don't think you should just take it at face value 100%. And secondly, is he even going to remember that he said that? Like, he's saying so many things, so much is going through his mind right then and there. As I think this commenter said, and the ones before, like, he hasn't broken up with you. He's just said a few words that you obviously don't agree with. You need to have exactly that conversation. I'll highlight it on screen right here. Saying exactly this, I think, is a very, very good idea. If you want kids, that would mean we're incompatible. Not sure if you're just having thoughts or if you're expressing actual intentions. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. OP replied saying, thank you for reminding me of this. It's a lot harder to remember when you're directly involved. What I don't want is for him to say what he thinks I want to hear so that he still has me around. That also is a valid point. It is. Because when he's more calm, he might say, and he might think more coherently. And I know I just said what I said, but also, maybe it's true that you don't say things when you're in a panic that you don't, that aren't at least a little bit truthful. I don't know, like if you're going through a divorce, your head's going to be messed up and you might be thinking one day to the next completely differently. So I'm not sure about that, but yeah, just have your wits about you, I would say, OP. Somebody else said, could it have been a statement made in a spiral? Exactly. That is it. Is it possible that the emotional complexities are deeper than a metaphorical shot across the bow? It seems like a simple conversation to reaffirm your choices is the next step. Perhaps he's truly interested in having more kids, in which case the relationship is done. I wouldn't call it a healthy process to check out without talking first, though. Yeah, to be honest, it's kind of weird that OP's like, he said one thing, I'm not going to say anything, but we're now broken up in my head. Like, if you don't say anything, then you're a coward. You can just like at least have a conversation. OP said, I believe it was because I got another text this morning saying that he doesn't want to have any more now. Okay, so there you go. Somebody else said, does he realize that you actually don't want any kids? I'm assuming this because you didn't even mention it in your post. Because there are other options like adopting. Good point. Very, very good point. Oh yes, though, says OP. It's one of the first things I ask so as not to waste time, I assume, dating. With my medical conditions, I wouldn't adopt. It wouldn't be fair. Then she said to another commenter, I have other health conditions and I don't think it's fair for children to have a parent who they'll end up having to look after. I was that child and that isn't a childhood. All right, to one longer comment, OP said, wow, you've written much more succinctly what I've been thinking. Honestly, up until yesterday, his values aligned with mine. We had very frank and open discussions about the breakdown of his marriage and how he contributed to that. He was in therapy. His visits with his kids were, from his description, great. He always puts them first and ensures he plans something they both enjoy as they both enjoy different things. I've had some health issues and he's taken care of me, challenged me to get up and about again. He's also thoughtful. He's not perfect by any means, but I do enjoy his company. Sounds like he's a good guy. He just said something in the heat of the moment that maybe he doesn't even now stand by or doesn't even believe, doesn't feel. I don't mean this is over by any means. As the divorce arrangements started to get hashed out, his children started asking questions that you wouldn't hear from a child. His ex asked him not to discuss anything with them, but the questions showed they were hearing something from somewhere. When the eldest said he was horrible for just walking out without saying goodbye, he corrected her and said it didn't happen that way. Obviously, they went back and asked their mum because she ripped into him and then didn't let him see them for 3 weeks. Then their attitudes started changing. Now, I'm well aware I'm only hearing one side, but the difference between the visits even up to 6 months ago and now are very stark. There we go. That is it for the original post. And let's get into the update live. Thanks for the answers. I replied to as many as I could, but eventually it got a bit repetitive. All right, fair enough. To those who never saw my replies and have the same questions, his kids were happy to see him when we met, but as the divorce became more acrimonious, they started to say things that, in my mind, children wouldn't typically say. If he had said anything about his children not wanting to see him when we first started dating, that would have been a red flag for me. Okay, so I guess OP is implying that his ex was putting stuff in their kids' minds. Helping a friend through a divorce and listening to them go through various ideas is very different to the person you see doing it, especially when they're talking about things that means the end of the relationship. Anyway, on to the update. We met up and I asked him if he was aware that he said he thinks he wants to have more kids. He said, yeah, it's a possibility. I said, you're aware that I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy, right? He said, yes. I said, so you're aware that this essentially means we're over? He said, it doesn't have to mean that. We can continue to see each other until I make up my mind. Whoa, that's a crazy thing to say. People, I nearly fell off my chair. I stared at him and I realized that he actually never knew me at all. Anyone who knows me knows I would never put up with this foolishness. I did not expect him to say that. I actually laughed and I said, you want me to continue to see you while you decide whether or not you want kids? And then if you do, I should just meekly walk away? Does that sound like that's fair? He said no, but he loves being with me and doesn't want to lose me. I told him I was lost the minute he told me he might want more kids. I said I appreciate him telling me the truth, but the consequence of that means we're over. I told him what I'd have told a friend. Sort out your relationship with the children you have before making new ones. And I gave him a book on that subject. That's the ultimate disrespect. It's funny, but kind of sad. I left and I cried. I'm going to miss him a lot. He's been texting, but I may block him soon. Dang. That's tough. I kind of feel a little bit conned by the mood spoiler. Like, did the mood spoiler not say sad, but OP will be okay? I thought they would stay together. Like, after the original post, I was thinking, well, they'll be fine. They'll stay together. Just have to work a few things out, and that's OP being okay. But actually, no. Doesn't really sound okay, does it? I was expecting the solution, the conclusion there to be a little bit more positive for OP, rather than this guy was also just secretly an idiot. What is it with all these people that are just like dumb? And why are they so good at hiding their true selves? I don't get it. I would like to think that I could see through someone like this and be like, quite early on, like clock that they do actually want kids and they're just lying to themselves and to me. Obviously, I have no idea if that's true or not, if I could do that, but it's not the outcome I was expecting, but I hope that she's all right. And I think that is the conclusion of this one. Like, that's all you can really take from it. Here we go then. How about this for a title? My boyfriend said I am the, quote, prettiest when I shut up in front of his friends. Goodness me. This was originally posted to r/AmIOverreacting on March the 9th, 2025. Damn. I mean, that's some title. Right. Now, I just want to see how this boyfriend is going to get out of this one, because if that was me and I said that, I'm done. Relationship is over. I know that for a fact. My boyfriend, who is 25, and I, a 22-year-old woman, were invited to a birthday party of his friend. The people at this event were all close friends of his from his contract job, and I barely know these people. Everything was going fine, and my boyfriend was clearly having a great time. But at some point, I was telling a story from my school days when my boyfriend interrupted and said, "You know, OP is prettiest when she shuts up." Everyone laughed, and my boyfriend just kept going, saying, "You guys don't know what I go through. She never stops talking. I swear to God, sometimes I tune her out for my own sanity," or something along those lines. Somehow we've saved the worst sentence for the end of the stream. I really thought that, like, she may have caught him saying it to his friends, and he was saying it behind her back as a joke without her knowing, and that was going to be awful. But she has been saying something in a group of people, and he has interrupted that sentence to say this in front of her and humiliate her. That's awful. I'm usually really introverted, continues OP, but when I warm up to someone, I'm the type to talk a lot. So when he said these words, I felt so embarrassed and humiliated, especially since he said it so casually in front of people I don't even know. Damn. I tried to brush it off, but I got quiet after that. Later, after the party was over, I told him how hurtful his comment was. He rolled his eyes and said I was being too sensitive and that it was just a joke and I was making a big deal out of nothing. He said I embarrassed him by acting cold for the rest of the night and that I should learn to take a joke. He also told me if I couldn't learn to lighten up, maybe I shouldn't come to events with his friends anymore, even though he was the one who asked me to come in the first place. I feel so awful and confused. Am I in the wrong for getting upset and killing the vibe? No, obviously you're not. I mean, what the heck? Even if you were in a group of people with your girlfriend who, like, she was best friends with and you were best friends with, even then I would be a little bit cautious about making that joke. It probably would be quite funny. I mean, it depends on the humor between you two and your group of friends in general, but like I would be very reticent to even try and make a joke like that, even if she really was going on and on and on. Like, that wasn't, the tone of that was awful. But it's in front of like a new group of people, and I'm sure he knows that you are introverted and yeah, like, find it difficult to chat to new people, but then you warm up to them and you're having a great time and you speak a lot. Yeah, he's done that. He knows how that's going to affect you. And then he's not even apologized for it. And he's saying, actually, no, you ruined my night and you should take a joke. Absolutely crazy. It's a terrible thing. Anyway, let's have a look at some comments on Reddit. Someone said, you're not overreacting. Your boyfriend straight up doesn't like you. If he feels so emboldened to insult you in front of his friends, this behavior will only get worse. He sounds like an idiot, somebody said, and so do his friends. Let's get into the update. This was posted March the 11th, 2025. I broke up with him. We'd been dating for 2 years, and it was the first time he'd acted that way, so I was genuinely conflicted, and I wasn't sure if the joke really flew over my head. Joke in quotes there, of course, as obviously it's not a joke. But I decided to leave. It takes me a lot of effort to come out of my shell, and I feel uncomfortable to stay with someone who doesn't like that. My self-esteem is usually really low, but this time I spoke up for myself once in a long time. We broke up over text. It sucked since he kept bringing up all his contract job friends over me again and again. These are people he acquainted with less than 7 months ago, so that alone tells me some things. I guess I won't be missing anything since he ended our text with, bye, I don't give a flip. Very mature. How old are these people again, sorry? Were they 22 and 25? Imagine being 25 and texting bye IDGAF. What a loser, man. I think you've made the right decision here. I mean, that's obviously clear. Thank you for all the sweet comments. At the time I wrote the post, I was feeling down and I cried a lot. I'm a bit sensitive, so I actually teared up reading some comments. Thanks again. I hope everyone has a nice day. Let's get into some final comments here. Proud of you, girl. Go and get yourself some food and flowers. Enjoy a movie. Self-care and happiness is best. I completely agree. I foresee him begging you for forgiveness in the near future when he realizes his work friends don't really give a frick about him long term. I agree with that as well. Parents who are in their 40s treated me, a 21-year-old woman, very badly, and I cut them off. Now they want a new beginning. It's an absolute epic of a story, guys. If you're ready for it, make sure to drop a like on this one. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Also, this is going to be a bit more of a laid-back episode, so make sure you grab a drink. I've got a coffee here. It's going to be chilled, and yeah, we're gonna get through this, and it's going to be amazing. Now, I will just say that I haven't read this story. I've skimmed it just to make sure it's good enough for you guys, but I don't know exactly what is going to happen, which makes it more fun because you're going to react to this at the same time I do, pretty much. So without further ado, here we go. A little trigger warning to start from OP. Child neglect, favoritism, golden child syndrome. Not ideal, fair enough. And a mood spoiler as well. The Lion, the Witch, and you know what? No, just eject them into the sun. Right, here we go. Again, July 16th, 2015 is when this was originally posted. Sorry if this is long, OP says. I have a non-identical twin sister. The two of us couldn't be any more different. She is lucky enough to be very beautiful and tall and very good looking. She's always ticked every box on her looks. I wasn't so lucky. I wasn't on the beautiful side and I was shorter. Right now I'm 5'1" and she is 5'8". She was also better at making friends and being sociable, while I was always her awkward sister. Now, I know I'm on the autism spectrum, but I was only diagnosed 2 years ago. Parents never bothered with that. Now you know you're on the autism spectrum. Wow, your parents never bothered? I mean, that is tragic. Anyway, none of this makes my parents horrible, says OP. I mean, I beg to differ, but fair enough. What makes them horrible is the way they treated me and my sister. They always treated her like she is an angel and treated me like I'm a loser. This goes back as early as when we were 3 and 4 years old. For each 20 picture that they have of her childhood, for each 20 pictures, they have maybe 2 or 3 of mine. Literally, they have over 10 times as many pictures of her, and most of mine are of both of us. She would always get a lot of attention from everyone, and I got none. My parents spent much more money on her too. Say if they wanted to spend $100 on clothes, 80 would go to her, and 20 would go to me. Their reasoning has always been that she's more beautiful, and it's worth spending more on her, as she gets a lot more attention, while nobody looks at me anyway, so why bother with better clothes? They've literally told me that many times. Imagine your own parents telling you that. How's that going to make a kid feel? Goodness me. I was in a sports team. They never once came to see me playing, while they go and see my sister cheerleading every week. Extend this to everything, and you know the story of my life. I hated every second of my childhood. I hated my sister. Yes, I know that none of this was actually her fault. I worked on myself with a therapist, so I no longer feel any hate or blame towards her. To be fair, I do not blame you for that. You're obviously going to hate her, even though it's not her fault. I mean, you want everything she has. You want the attention of your parents, which you're not getting. You're going to be extremely jealous. That's so fine. OP says, since I was 15, I was counting the days until I'd become 18 and could leave and never come back. And that is what I did. That is the age which you can leave home without parents' consent where we live. I left home the day after my 18th birthday. The night before, my parents threw a birthday party for us. Well, for her. Their gift for her was a $1,000 gift card from a luxury designer brand. Goodness me. Now for me, wow, I got a $100 gift card for a bookstore. What? They argued that this $100 gives me the same level of ability to buy the things I like, books, as that $1,000 would to her, expensive clothes. Okay, their logic. They knew I was thinking of leaving, but they had no idea I wanted out ASAP. I left that day. They asked me to stay and allow them to help out, but I was like, I've had enough of you. Leave me alone. And I'm not surprised. I think as tough as that is, I'd have to do that as well. I mean, nobody wants to be forced out or have to leave their house as soon as they illegally can because their parents are so awful. But in this situation, what is the alternative? If your sister is getting 10 times the amount of money as you for your same 18th birthday, absolutely insane. And the logic is just so dumb. Anyway, I never made any contact with them after that. As soon as I was able to, I moved to another city to get even further away, as I hated that city too. They called and texted me for a while, but I never answered or replied, and I changed my number eventually. I also removed them from all my social media. I set it so that if they sent me any emails, it would automatically get deleted, and a reply would come as this: automatically deleted, do not waste your time, and that would be sent to them. That is the current status of things on my side. Okay, there we go. It's a pretty tough upbringing, isn't it? To have this. And yeah, what are you supposed to do? I think you've done everything you can do. It's horrible, but I mean, your parents are a disgrace. They're an absolute disgrace. Now, I will say that obviously this is gonna I don't want to say exaggerate or get a lot worse, but I will say that having had a little skim, what is to come is genuinely mind-blowing from these parents. Like, you think they're bad now, guys? Have some patience. They are awful. Let's carry on. 2 days ago, my dad sent me a message on Facebook. My initial instinct was to delete it, but I opened it and I started reading. This was the first message in months from them. He explained that he understands that they were not good parents and they did a lot of wrong, but maybe we can start over. He asked if I can come over for dinner at some point so all of us can get to know the new each other better. I haven't responded. I don't know if I should give them another chance or just delete this message and don't look back. That is a conundrum and not one that I'd want to be in because, again, as I say a lot of the time in stories like this, no matter what's happened before, these guys will always be your family. And for that reason, I think just biologically, you're going to want to, have them in your life. But is that the right thing to do? I honestly say probably not. Right, let's get into some relevant comments. Lordika, a commenter down below on the original post, said this: what do you want? Do you long for a repaired relationship with them, or are you happier with them out of your life? Great question. You might explore your options with a therapist. Remember, if you aren't ready now, you can always respond with a maybe later, I'll be in touch. Very, very sound advice there from Lordika. OP replied, I wanted a good relationship with them for many, many years. When I was growing up, every night I prayed for them to become nicer to me and like me for who I am. But that was 3 years ago, and my world is much bigger now. I'm thinking of talking to my therapist about this. How sad is that? I mean, jeez. Then somebody else said, my first thought is maybe your sister needs a kidney. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember. Those of you that have been around for a long time on my channel may remember. I think I'm right in saying I read a very similar story to that in which someone actually did, after years, get in contact with a family member, acting all nice. And it actually was because they needed a kidney transplant. And I can't remember if it was a brother or a dad or son, but they were obviously the best match. Unbelievable. But yeah, OP says, to be honest, that came to my mind at first when I was reading the message. It's tough. I mean, so tough. And then someone else said, did you not have grandparents or aunts and uncles who tried to tell them that they were being unfair? I have 3 daughters, and while I have probably done birthdays where I didn't spend the same on them, they at least got what they asked for. Parents aren't perfect people, but my gosh, your parents need a kick in the pants. I do think that is something that you learn as you grow older, that your parents are also humans. Like, I'm at the age now, 25, where I could feasibly be a dad. And I look at myself and I think, goodness me, some of the mistakes I'd probably make would be catastrophic. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't do things like this, guys. Cut me a little bit of slack. This is actually disgraceful, as I've said. But yeah, I mean, this commenter is right. Parents are just people. They do make mistakes. But this is not good. This is a bit too far. OP replied, oh my goodness me, this is so sad. They were all in on it. What? Grandparents, aunt, uncles, everyone adored her and were at best indifferent to me? I remember my grandfather telling me to learn from my sister to be a nice and popular girl that everybody loves. I was maybe 12. What? What is wrong with this family? I mean, what is wrong with people? I can only imagine how horrible having a family like this would be. In fact, I can't even really imagine it. I actually can't. How is that? I was expecting there OP to reply and say, yeah, look, my parents are bad and the rest of my family tried to tell them how bad they were being, but they just couldn't get through to them. And ultimately, I lived with them and there was nothing I could do. I could go and visit my grandparents, my aunt, my uncle, whatever, and it was nice and they give me stuff and be kind to me. But no, everyone in this person's family is just a jerk. Or worse than that. I mean, this is like bordering on abusive, isn't it? There's got to be some form of emotional abuse. Maybe the trigger warning was fair enough after all. All right, so that is it for the initial post. But on July 23rd, 2015, again, almost 9 years ago now, we got this update. Thank you for your comments and suggestions, OP said. They were super helpful and helped me see things a lot more clearly. Love you all. This is a big update, and it's something quite shocking. I've got to go back to my therapist. This is what I said earlier, guys. What you're about to hear will genuinely blow you away, and not in a good way. Is that a thing? Getting negatively blown away? Who knows? But if it is, you're about to be. Before I get to it, a lot of you asked about my relationship with my sister. Well, there's no relationship really. I spent all of my childhood hating her and never really had a nice relationship with her. She was not like my parents, but they had spoiled the heck out of her, and she sort of always saw herself as the better one of the two of us. Not surprised there, and right now I don't even blame her for that. Yeah, you know what, I agree. It's literally what I was about to say. I would see myself as better than my sibling as well, probably for a large portion of my life. If everyone was doting on me more than them, I'd say there's got to be a reason for it. Remember, your sister's just a kid here. She doesn't know what's going on. However, OP says, on the day that I was leaving, I gave her a hug and told her that maybe if we had different parents, we could have really been sisters. But it's not how it turned out in this life. Maybe we can make up for it later ourselves. I told her that if she wants to talk to me about this, she can call me and we can meet up. She never called me. You know what? I don't really think that surprises me. But I have to say, massive respect, OP, for being that courteous and selfless to not like massively blame her. I'm probably not sure I could. As it appeared from the last post, I went to talk to my therapist about this, and she suggested that I can initiate some conversation and see how it goes. Based on her assessment, she was happy if I wanted to go and see them. I just need to understand that there is no obligation to go or stay. Good. OP replied to their father's message with the following. Hi, Dad. For us to ever have a chance of seriously starting over, you owe me an answer. Why? Now, I expect an honest answer, OP says. No, why what? No, come and let's talk in person or anything of that sort. Just give it to me straight. Believe me, I can handle reading it if you can handle doing it. If you're not willing to give me that, then I'm not willing to start over. He came back to me the next day with a long message explaining why. Let's get right to it. Now, this is the part that I've been talking about the entire time. This is going to shock you. My dad told me that him and my mum wanted a child, and only one child, as they didn't have the resources and energy of having more than one. They realised that we're twins. That screwed up everything and actually made them sad rather than happy. Brutal. They decided to give one of us up for adoption. They looked around and even found a couple. In case you wondered, I was the one they decided to give away because I was smaller and my eyes weren't blue. Yeah, that is how you decide which one of your kids to keep. They arranged everything, even took me to go and see them. I presume the couple, yes. But that couple bailed out before signing the papers when they saw me and my sister. Their conscience couldn't handle separating twin sisters like this. After this, they looked for... Actually, I was a bit surprised there. Some sane people, apart from OP in this story. Took me back there. But yeah, obviously, they couldn't handle separating twin sisters. Who would do that? I mean, nobody would do that at that age, apart from, for some reason in this story, their actual parents. Ridiculous. After this, my parents looked for some couples, and nobody seemed willing to adopt one of two twin sisters. I wonder why. They entertained the idea of putting me into foster care, but they couldn't live with themselves if they did. What, so they can live with putting you up for adoption, but you're not allowed to go to foster care? Okay. I think that says a lot. Stranger couples who so badly wanted to adopt a child couldn't be heartless enough to separate twin sisters, but their frickin' parents wanted to do it. It's beyond me. Exactly. So they had to raise me themselves, and they didn't enjoy it at all. In their minds, the fact that they didn't put me into foster care was a favour in itself. Right, okay. More than what I apparently deserved. And that is why they never cared to do more for me. Their full time and resources belonged to my sister, and the small part of it that got to me, they saw it as me taking what's my sister's away. That is how they saw me. No wonder my childhood turned out the way it did. I just can't believe what I'm reading. My dad said that deep inside, they always knew what they were doing was wrong. Okay. But they could never step up and do the right thing during this 18 years. Why not? Well, they thought that changing the dynamic would negatively affect my sister, as she's now used to being offered more time and resources, and I'm used to not getting it. So making it more equal would be a luxury for me and a pain for her. They thought that's not fair for my sister to be in pain for the sake of my luxury. Again, their logic. I don't even know what to say to that. Me neither. Again, just absolutely bamboozling and just so stupid. Let's get an IQ test done on these guys, by the way. I mean, what are we thinking? Comment down below. I'm going to go for like 6 or 7 maximum. Maybe 5. It's got to be around that sort of number. Ever since I left, Mum and Dad are having trouble. My sister is off to college and they're alone now with all the time in the world to think about what they did. They've been to marriage counselling, and according to him, that has helped them see everything clearly now and see how cruel they were to me. Well done, guys. Oh, I just knocked over my deodorant. But anyway, well done, guys. You needed marriage counselling to tell you you're abusing your child. He says they want to start over and make up for all of it if I'm prepared to allow them. I don't think you should, OP. I think this is getting ridiculous. This is quite shocking for me. This explains a lot about why my childhood turned out the way it did. I'm going to be honest. I wish they'd given me away for adoption. I really, really do. I could have been with adoptive parents who really wanted me, rather than with my biological parents who never did. I still don't believe that they have changed, though. This can be the result of my sister, their golden child, being away and not spending as much time with them, and then trying to replace her with me. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm sure that is what's going on here. I don't want to do that at all, but I don't know. I've got to talk to my therapist. So, guys, please give me your opinions again. You guys were so useful to me last time. Your help means a lot. Right. That's it. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let's have a look at some of the comments down below. I'm going to sort this by top, so that these are the most upvoted comments down below. And this is the sad part about this entire story. This was posted just a day ago on this subreddit. What subreddit was originally posted on, I'm not actually sure. But, you know what, let's find out. Let's find out. What subreddit was it originally posted on? r/relationships. Not surprising. That is why it's in the title of this episode. But yeah, as you can see, if you're watching this, 9 years ago, and brutally, sadly, there's somehow not an update to this. This commenter has said, there's no way this is over. There'll be more. Then sees the date, July 2015. No, I need to know how it went. And yeah, I agree. Bringing this to best of Redditor updates now is so cruel. 8 years have passed. 8 years ago. Someone else has said, it says something about the parents that they wanted to give her up and thought she was stealing from her sister just by existing. It says more, though, that they didn't feel bad about it until 20 years later when they had nothing to do but think. And again, the only way, for some weird reason, that this kind of, I don't know, that they understood what had been going on was by going to a therapist. I mean, how is that possible? I just don't really know what's gone on here. It shows that they shouldn't have been raising any kids. I agree with that. Kids having a fair list of opportunities, love, care, resources would never be taken away from the other siblings. I agree. I dread to think how these people would have treated the original poster if she required more care than a usual child. Oh my goodness me, great point. They sounded more than happy to keep just letting the poor kid suffer while seeing her sister get 90% or more than her, and every adult in her life acts like that's normal. I really, really hope she told them off and didn't go back to them. They don't deserve it. And I agree. But sadly, guys, again, as the first commenter said, we don't know. We don't know, which is just such a shame. I guess, like, maybe you could argue that is one of the bad things sometimes about this subreddit. I mean, the reason I like it so much is that you often have, conclusions to stories. The stories are finished and you're not left wondering what happened next. But on this one, you are. I don't know. Get in the comments down below. What do you think? What do you think happened? What do you hope OP did? What do you think OP did? Because who knows? There might be different answers. I hope they're not. And I just hope that, yeah, OP understood. And I feel like she was getting there, that, maybe it really is just because my sister has left the house now and they're left wanting some attention from one of their daughters. I don't know. They'd obviously rather it be your sister, but you're about. Let's get in contact with her. Fill the void for a few years before hopefully our other favorite golden child comes back. I don't know if she's gone to college or whatever, but I do have another story for you. I do have another story. And this one, let me tell you, you thought the last one was crazy? Well, this one is probably less crazy, but no, this one actually is more crazy. And yeah, these trigger warnings on this one, I will say, listen to them because they are legit. Right. Am I the jerk for not telling my boyfriend I won money 15 years ago? Pretty innocent title, I would say. But just wait. Just wait for this one. Trigger warning. Discussion of feces. Mention of blood. Again, I've scanned this one quickly. This does happen. It's not that bad, though. I wouldn't be triggered by it. But again, just word of warning. Mood spoiler. OP, the person that's posted this on r/best of has said, I'm borrowing the original poster's lines here. I've never dated crazy before, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked at his insanity. Now, while the first post in this episode came from July 2020, 2015, this one is February 1st, 2024. So what, just a month ago at the time of recording. I don't know what I did wrong, or if what I did is wrong and I need some advice. I didn't want to post this on my real account because I'd like to be as anonymous as possible. My boyfriend, who is 35, and I, a 35-year-old woman, were discussing finances as we wanted to be on the same page. My boyfriend moved in with me unexpectedly 3 months ago, as his landlord decided to move into the property with his family. We were discussing finances, and the topic of how I own my place came up. Oh, and I have just clicked on some weird things. And if, by the way, if you do want to see what I look for on Reddit, let's actually have a look. There you go. Fantasy football. Prorevenge, nuclear revenge. These are my favorite things to look up. A little bit of a tidbit of information there about me and what I use Reddit for when I'm just chilling and not reading stories. Although it looks like I'm still reading stories, to be honest. That is what I do a lot. Anyway, where were we? We were discussing finances and the topic of how I own my place came up. I explained that I won some money. Not a lot, but enough to be able to put myself through nursing school, purchase my home, and have some savings back in 2009. And I bought my place outright and then rented it out until I moved back into it in late 2018. Obviously, I had some luck on my side, as this was right in the middle of the recession, so I got my place for real cheap. He says I deceived him by giving him the impression that I was financially well off and that I led him to believe I was more business savvy than I was. Okay, how has he jumped to that conclusion? Unless I'm missing something, you won money, right? Again, not a lot. And you bought a cheap home and you went to school. Like, okay, I don't know exactly how much money that is roughly going to be. Probably is a decent amount, to be fair. But apparently that means that you've deceived him? I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. Anyway, let's carry on. I don't know how I did that, OP says, because I literally work as a nurse, make decent money, fully own my home, fully own my car, have decent retirement plans and decent savings. I'm fairly certain that I am financially better off than most people I know. Okay, he says that he can't trust me anymore and that he was stupid to have listened to my financial advice. But the thing is, I never gave him any, except for telling him not to buy a car that was, in my opinion, unreliable and much too expensive, which, let's be honest, is pretty reasonable and obvious advice. OP asks, did I deceive him by not telling him how I got myself financially stable? FYI, we've been dating for almost a year and a half. No. You just got some money. Why do people need to know how you made your money? Like, it sounds to me as if you've got a very reliable job and you're in a great spot. If anything, I'd be happy about that as your partner. So, you know what, fair play. Like, you've got your house outright. You've gone through nursing school. You're a qualified nurse. You're doing well. You're chilling. You know what you're doing. You clearly have a good relationship with money. Why does it matter how you earned it in the first place? Also, the first lump of money that you get is always the hardest bit. Once you have, your house, a mortgage, you've got your job, you've been through school, you've paid off debts or whatever, money surely then becomes less important in that exact moment. Like, what more do you need than a solid job and a house? And you have those two things. Why do you now need to be earning loads of money and be really financially savvy? I don't really see why you'd need to do that. It's very, very weird. Surely you can just be happy for someone that they have a house. I mean, nobody my age, apart from like 2 people that I know, has bought a house or owns their house outright. But no one owns their house outright, that's for sure. So I'll just say fair play. This is great. And keep it up. You're doing a great thing no matter how you got the money. Like, does that also mean that sorry, I know I'm rambling, but if someone gets a lot of, inheritance money, that, oh, actually that money is kind of, not yours in a sense that you didn't earn it in the right way, and therefore you've actually gone down in my estimations because the money wasn't earned by you. Again, no, I don't really care. It's also not deception. It's just, what a weird word or weird take to have on this. Okay, editor's note here. Edit. I just had, the editor of who's put this up on Best Of has said, all these following edits occur in the same day within 8 hours. Okay, so OP edited this and said, I just had another very weird conversation with him and I honestly can't wrap my head around it. Yeah, so he's definitely a gold digger. Okay. He asked me how much I have in savings and seemed impressed with how much, and then said maybe he reacted too aggressively. Then he asked/told me that he still wants the car I advised him not to get. He hinted at me getting it for him as a birthday present since it's his birthday in early March. I'm definitely dumping him. I'm going to wait till my 2 sisters and my 2 brother-in-laws can come over before I break up with him in case he reacts crazy. That's not great. You don't want that. Being in a relationship with somebody that you have the potential, or you can see the potential for them to go crazy, that's a bit scary. Edit 2. He's jealous and also resentful. He is ranting about how he would have tripled the money if he had won it. You're meant to be in a relationship with this person. What is he doing? Edit 3. He's saying that my money is wasted on me because I don't make it make money. Apparently, I should have been investing my savings in high-yielding stocks and other stuff. FYI, I do get financial advice from a financial advisor that I trust, but I'm a risk-averse person, so I'd never invest it in the manner this idiot is telling me. Sure, the chance to get a lot of money is there, but so is the chance to lose it. Exactly. It's your, and also the main point is your money. And it sounds as if you got a lot more than him. Doesn't matter how you got it in the first place. Now, an idiot who got the amount of money you did would not have put themselves through nurse school, would not have bought a mortgage on a house or pay for the house outright. They would have bought an unreliable car that's really overpriced, and instantly, the moment you buy it, would lose a load of value. Let's be completely honest. I don't know why this guy is chatting so much. You know what I mean? Ridiculous. Edit 4. He's now on a crazy rant because I suggested we take a break from this argument, as I don't want to ruin my few days off. My God, I can't believe how he's behaving. He thinks he's so clever, but I'm thoroughly disgusted. Oh, it is absolutely over between us. Edit 5. Okay, so I understand him better now. Okay, this is interesting. My house / the property it's on is what led him to believe I was much richer than I am. He assumed I was loaded. So me telling him I actually got lucky angers him. Then, when he found out how much in savings and assets I have, he perked up and had a change of mind. He's now telling me that with just a quarter of my money, he can show me how to invest in the stock market and make real money. Oh, he is genuinely deluded. Okay, now I do just want to say that I think that, this is probably not worth saying, but and you guys know this already. If you do have a lot of cash, it is obviously, and this is not financial advice, obviously, but this is just like common knowledge. It is good to put that money to use in some way rather than just letting it chill in a bank account and lose value over years. So the general principle and the point that he's making is a fine one, but that's with your own money. And if you want to do that, if you're a risk-averse person, there's nothing wrong with just leaving it in a bank and having it there. I mean, look, we saw in the recession when OP, you know, used the money to buy a house for cheap, that having liquid cash there was great. And if you had invested into lots of other things, you know, the stock market, property, whatever, you lost a lot of money. So if you want to be completely safe, that's what you do. Obviously, you know, it is probably advisable to invest some of your money in something and not have it all in cash, but you've also purchased a house. That is literally investing money. I don't really understand what this guy's doing. The main point being that it's not his money, so why is he trying to, you know, chat load of wash? But anyway, that is it for the first post. Some people asked down below, how long have you been together? Were you together when you won the money? They've been together almost a year and a half. I didn't even know him when I won my money. All right, now let's get into an interaction here between a Redditor down below and OP. Someone said, you're obviously not the jerk here and not in the wrong. It sounds like he is insecure because you make more or have more success than him. Yeah, exactly, I agree. He is putting you down to make himself feel better. Yeah, there's definitely an inferiority complex going on here. Nurses make bank. They work hard hours and are compensated accordingly. Simply ask him, knowing how you probably earn 100k per year and another 30, 40k in overtime, if he believes you could own your home without your prior luck. Because unless it's a mansion, buying anything in the recession was cheap, and as stated, you likely make bank. If he feels like you don't deserve your home because of some chance or luck and couldn't afford it, offer to move into his comparable home that he purchases. Yeah, exactly. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not sure. Oh my goodness me. Take it all back. I was going to say I'm not sure about the numbers here for a nurse's salary, but then again, I have no idea what country this takes place in. But I've just seen something there. Wow. Honestly, I don't think he recognizes your success, and I think you need a long chat about it over a bottle of wine or 3. He can either be proud of you and drop it, or he can be single. Apologies for touching my mic there. OP says, I earn a bit over 200k. And with overtime, I earn more. I also know I could buy a fairly decent place now if I wanted to, and I base that on my colleagues who purchased their homes in the past few years. Yeah, I think if you're earning over 200k, you're doing pretty well. You're doing very, very well. That is phenomenal. Does your boyfriend not know you earn that much then? I guess he doesn't. But, I mean, just that... I wouldn't tell him that, by the way, if he doesn't know, because what you're trying to get to the bottom of here is what is he really insecure about? But, I mean, clearly, you know yourself. You're very financially well off. You're doing very well. That's phenomenal stuff. Yeah, fair play. OP continues, you're right, I'm definitely going to ask him. I was just so taken aback by his response to me sharing things with him that I was genuinely perplexed as to what I did to cause such an argument. Still important to recognize how much luck plays a part in wealth, OP though adds. I absolutely recognize that my win put me in an extraordinary position. If I didn't win, I would have had student loans and other debt hanging over my head. I've never thought of myself as superior or more worthy than anyone else of being financially stable. No, but, and yes, that is true, but it sounds to me as if you would have been able to pay off this debt relatively quickly. Maybe, yeah, you would have had to wait a few more years before buying a house and you would have had to rent. Fine. But if we're talking like in terms of financial years, how many years really is that putting you behind where you're at right now? 5 maximum? I know it's a lot of money to go to like doctor school or whatever it's called, in whatever country it is, but I don't know. You don't have to pay it all off at once. You're earning over $200,000 now per year, maybe more with overtime, as you said. I think you would have been completely fine anyway. Let's be completely realistic. That is a fantastic salary. OP continues, I literally grew up very poor and that money changed my life and the lives of my sisters. So I absolutely recognize the privileges and opportunities it gave me and what it continues to give. To an extent, I agree. But now you're killing it on your own. You can win loads of money. And we hear about lottery winners, right? That win a load of money and in a couple of years they've lost it all because they're absolute clowns, spent it all on stupid cars, didn't, use it to actually benefit their life in the long term. And that's it. So yes, you made money from a little bit of luck. Who knows exactly what happened there? Sounds to me like probably some form of lottery win. But that's it. What you chose and choose continually to do with that money is up to you, and you do very, very well. Right, more on the boyfriend. So they did talk about money. OP said that he had 18k in savings. In regards to him moving in, he was definitely given a 30-day notice and he looked for a place. In fact, I helped him with it, but the rental market was just a bit brutal, so we agreed he could move in, and yes, he pays rent. My jaw dropped when he hinted at me getting a Tesla for him. Talking to him the past couple of days has literally hurt my brain. He says one thing, then the next will be contradictory to the previous thing he said. He hinted at you getting a Tesla for him. I think this guy just likes cars. That's it. And he's looking at you and really trying to, get a car out of you, if anything. It's clear that he's a gold digger. OP says, and finishes here with this post, he was never like this before. I guess moving in made it difficult to hide his crazy. And maybe that is the final point, really, before we get into an update here. You just probably didn't see these red flags, or he didn't show them to you. He is a gold digger. And yeah, moving in is impossible to hide those things. Simple as that. Now, quite obviously, OP was voted as not the jerk. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, get in the comments down below. Do you think that OP could possibly be the jerk here? Obviously not. Right, 3 weeks later, we got this update. I've been repeatedly asked to give an update, and here I am. This is posted on February 22nd, just 10 days or so ago. So, my sisters and brother-in-laws came over, and I asked him to leave. He got very angry and argumentative. While he and I argued, my family packed up all his stuff and put it in his car. He didn't have much at mine, as most of his furniture and other bigger items were already in storage. He couldn't believe that I'd break up with him over such a little thing, as if he hadn't spent 3 days yelling and ranting at me. He finally left and is now staying at his parents' house. His parents called me to ask what happened. I explained the situation and they said it was for the best that we broke up. Okay, so maybe they're actually, unlike the parents in the first post, sensible and reasonable. Who knows? It can happen. There can be sensible people out here and in these stories. I didn't see him for a few days, but he called and texted a whole bunch, and it was just him flipping between being regretful of his behavior to raging at my audacity and stupidity. Then I got a call from Mike, one of his friends, and he asked me what happened because my ex-boyfriend was telling people that he broke up with me for being a cheater. Right, okay, so now he's just trying to slander you. Apparently he caught me sleeping with some random dude. Yeah, actually, your financial advisor. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. This guy, I mean, look, we can say what we want about the financials and him being a gold digger, etc., and you finding out the truth about him. Ultimately, he's just a dick. Plain and simple. And I really hope that I censored that live. Otherwise, YouTube are not going to like that. But yeah, a dick. He is. That's all I can say. I explained the real situation to his friend, and he laughed, saying he was wondering when he'd bring up his money schemes. Oh, God. So we had a long chat, and he told me how my ex had recently lost a lot of money in trading, and that's what had him stressed and anxious. It's also what pushed him over the edge. Apparently, he was angry with me for not taking the same risks that he takes. He complained to Mike about me being a risk-averse person. Mike told me to move on and to change my locks because my ex apparently had a history of being nasty when dumped. He was right, because a few days after that, my ex broke into my house. And here we go. This is the reason for the feces trigger, guys. Took a poop on my kitchen counter. He was arrested while he was in the process of evacuating his bowels. Oh my goodness me. I obviously changed the codes to my security system so he couldn't get in with the old codes, and by the time he'd broken into the back door, the police were already on their way. He tried to tell them that he was my boyfriend and lived in the house, but what resident breaks the back door of their house and bleeds over the entire hallway, then takes a poop on their own kitchen counter? He spent the night in jail and was bailed out the next day by his parents. They called to apologize, and I told them to never contact me again. I am also in the process of getting a protection order. And here is that same quote that we read at the beginning. I have never dated crazy before, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked at his insanity. I can't believe what I've just read. If you're watching this on YouTube, you would have seen there. Just utter shock and dismay on my face. Let's get some comments. Someone asked, what was the process of cleaning that up? Why do you want to know? I mean, do I even read this? I do, but why do you want to know? I'd arrived back to the house, OP says, while he was in the back of the police car, and one of the officers recommended a cleaning company that specializes in biohazards. Luckily for me, they could have someone come in the morning for an emergency priority fee, and honey, I was happy to pay. My brother-in-law also temporarily boarded up the back door with some leftover plywood he had. Then I paid a guy I know to replace the doors, and I paid extra for some real solid and heavy doors. He also painted the hallway. The cleaners had to use harsh chemicals to get the blood off, and it damaged the paint. He'll also be remodeling my kitchen for me. It is outdated, and I've always planned to fix it up. If there's ever a good excuse, in my opinion, to remodel your kitchen, it's your ex pooping on it. Jeez. Honestly, didn't even go in the house. I saw what I needed to on the security cameras. I was too devastated. The cleaners, though, did do an excellent job. There you go. There's always a silver lining, isn't there? That is one thing. Some more info on the forensic cleaner. God. I had to call them. I called them up and explained that I needed cleaning of bodily fluids, the blood and stool. They agreed to take me on and could have the team arrive in the morning. The cleaning company specializes in forensic cleaning and biohazards. They're an independent company and do not work for the police or the government in any way. I paid just under $2,000. Oh my goodness. This included the cleaning fee and the emergency priority fee. I mean, to be fair, you're not going to get a lot of people wanting to clean up that sort of stuff, and that's probably why it's so expensive. The police did take pictures of the house and had me send them my security camera recordings. Right, good question here. After that, I can't really quite believe what I read. How did the history of being nasty when dumped not come up before? This is a valid question, but I to be honest, can already kind of understand why it wouldn't, because who's going to say this? And why would one of his friends say this to you? It would just be a weird thing to say, but anyway. We did discuss past relationships, but obviously everything was a lie. Yeah, not surprising. He had told me his last ex cheated on him. They were together for 3 years, and Mike told them that it was true, but I was missing the part where she'd only cheated as a form of payback before she broke up with him because he had repeatedly cheated on her. Yeah, I mean, selective memory, obviously just lying. Nothing you can really do about that, and I'm not really surprised that this didn't come up in the past. It's just something that was always going to come up at one point, but you can't blame yourself. Not that you are, by the way, but you can't say, oh, how didn't I see this sooner? You see the good in people if you're a good person. Obviously, you wouldn't expect something like this. Right, a question about cameras and removing access to things. OP is on it. Literally have cameras all around and in the house. He hasn't contacted me since his arrest, but if he does, I'm absolutely keeping notes and informing the police. I never thought of this, but I went ahead and changed all my logins and my Wi-Fi username and password. Thanks. Great point. Oh, imagine him just like being a creep outside your house, getting all your info, and he probably still has obviously the login for the username and the password of the Wi-Fi. In fact, he would, unless you change it. So yeah, good stuff. Someone asked, where did the blood come from? God, that is the last question. When he broke down the door, he also damaged the glasswork it had. The glass obviously shattered and it sliced up his hands and forearms. They weren't deep cuts, but it was enough to make for a shocking crime scene. He then went into the house with blood all over the hallway and parts of the kitchen. He used some of my kitchen towels to wrap up his arms, so blood was also in the kitchen area. When he was arrested, the officers did call for an ambulance and he was treated on site while I was speaking to one of the other officers. And there we go. That is the end of the absolute abomination of a story. My entitled mum left our wedding because it wasn't sufficiently about her. You guys have been loving the sort of bridezilla stories of late, and this one about an entitled mum at your own wedding not being about her, it's going to be good. When I, a 31-year-old woman, had my wedding 5 years ago, we decided to host it at my wife's, who was also 31, mother's house. We dressed up the garden and it looked magical. We were able to have a stunning garden wedding with about 100 guests relatively cheaply. On the big day, while getting set up, my entitled mum was buzzing around, making a complete nuisance of herself, trying to change how tables were arranged and allocated, and bothering both my wife and I while we were getting ready for the ceremony. Oh, how annoying is that? You've put in all that effort, all that planning, and your mum is doing this on the day, saying, no, this is not right. I mean, shut up. Know your place. Anyway, where were we? Our friend, who was the unofficial manager of the wedding, was doing his best to keep her satiated while also keeping her from bothering the brides. When it came time for the speeches, I made a mention of the people who had specifically helped and people who were a part of the wedding party. My sister was mentioned as she was a part of the wedding party, and my mother-in-law was mentioned for partially funding the wedding and hosting it at her house, investing a lot of time and effort. I feel like I know what's going to happen here. Yep. In the end, my entitled mum did not get mentioned because she did not help, rather she hindered, and has honestly never done anything to support us. Oh my goodness. When it became clear that she was not getting mentioned, her family started shouting at me from across the garden, reminding me to mention my mother. Out of surprise and shock, I made a quick mention, but I honestly had no idea what to even say. It made no sense to me to mention her. Wow, scathing words, but based on the little amount of context we have here, I mean, it's fair, right? Shortly after, she left in tears, and she took her entire extended family with her, which is about a quarter of the guests. Wow. Most of them didn't even say goodbye. It was a devastating amount of drama for what should be a magical day. My dad handled it well and comforted us both. They are divorced. I don't regret not mentioning her even a little bit. All it did was highlight that she can't be trusted to participate in our lives in any important or meaningful way. The relationship has never been the same since, especially since she outright refused to apologize to my wife, even trying to compare her behavior with my wife being withdrawn at her family gatherings, since for some reason, the entire extended family tends to pretend she doesn't exist. Totally bizarre. I'm glad that my wife still loves me so much, despite my insane mother. Now, I'm sorry, I've just got to highlight this straight away. Trying to compare her behavior with my wife being withdrawn at her family gatherings, since for some reason, the entire extended family tends to pretend she doesn't exist. I'm getting sort of, vibes here that perhaps some part of the family here doesn't like the fact that you are both women getting married. I mean, that is the logical conclusion that I've come to there. But there we go. I mean, that is it for the first story. Let's have a look at what the comments are saying down below. This is something I love to do. I don't normally show it too much in the episodes, but yeah, here we go. A special thanks to my mum, says this user, for showing up. We really appreciate all the effort you put into getting dressed all by yourself. And OP said pretty much, yeah, I mean, that is it. Do you deserve a mention? No. I mean, it's ridiculous. Do you deserve a mention for your entire family being homophobic? Probably not. And I know I'm jumping to conclusions there, but let's be honest, guys. If you agree with me, comment down below. That does seem like what's probably going on here. And yep, someone else has said, the lower the contact with a narcissist, the better. OP's actually replied to that. We are finding that out now. It can be dreadfully difficult to reach that conclusion, but no matter how many chances we give, we are just always disappointed. The same person's come back. She will always be the victim. Life is better when you go no contact. Trust me, my mum is one, and life is better without her and her drama. OP says, I'm glad you've been able to find happiness away from her. It sucks, especially because she was a great mum in my youth. Yeah, and this is what someone said. I wonder what caused her to change. Again, I think that just adds credence to my point that, is it still highlighted? No, it's not. But this, for some reason, the entire extended family tends to pretend she doesn't exist. I wonder why. Maybe when you came out as lesbian. Maybe. Anyway, that is it for the first story. And that is going to do it for Entitled Parents for a bit. I think this next story right here comes from r/entitled people. Now, this is actually a 3-parter. Technically a 2-parter, but there is an extended part on the end, which is to do with the story from the same user, who, by the way, is called My Keys Were Stolen. I mean, if that doesn't kind of sum up what this story is about, then yeah, here we go. Right. My mother-in-law stole my collection of vintage skeleton keys to sell at pawn and buy herself a new phone. Part 1. Honestly, this is you get some titles where you're just like, why? This is one of them. My best friend recommended Reddit to begin with and suggested this subreddit, and even said I should have posted it here first. I'm dividing the post into 2 halves to make it easier to read. Okay, let's get into it. My mother-in-law is insanely entitled, and my wife's enabling of her has made our marriage very hard at times. My mother-in-law has come to us for money a lot because she keeps spending herself into a hole. She's a hoarder and a shopaholic. Her house is full of garbage, junk, and unopened stuff that she never uses. The house is rodent infested too. I mean, up until that point, it's not the end of the world. You could be a hoarder. Your house doesn't have to be completely tidy or whatever. But when it's rat infested, that's absolutely disgusting. That is vile. Okay. She has one semi-clean room in the whole building, and it's the master bedroom. She's mocked it up like a little studio apartment with a futon to sleep on and use as a couch, an entertainment centre with TV and streaming, and a makeshift kitchen consisting of the adjoining bathroom, a mini fridge, and a microwave. She's also overweight because she eats out a lot. You're allowed to eat out a lot, by the way, just saying. As long as you exercise and don't eat too much, nothing wrong with it. But yeah, it is often synonymous with being overweight. I can't argue with that. Recently, she came to us wanting me specifically to buy her a new smartphone as an unprompted gift. Now, that usually is how gifts work, isn't it? You go to somebody and say, give me a gift, and I want this exactly, and you need to give it to me now, especially when you are significantly older than them. Oh, here we go. Down here, she's 53. It's ridiculous. Anyway, she threw a massive fit, OP says, when I refused. And I mean a child temper tantrum kind of fit. Why does she want a new phone so suddenly? Well, hers was 2 years old. That is literally it. As far as I know, it still worked fine. Even my wife has confirmed this. Now, I have to say, I don't understand why people get new phones every 2 years. Because I feel like unless they're actually broken, they still work. Like, you don't need a new one. I know everyone's like in this sort of consumerism sort of world where you need to get a new iPhone as much as possible. But do you need one every 2 years? This is, I'm showing it on camera, an 11 Pro. Now, how old is that now? I don't know, maybe 3-4 years? And I don't need to get a new one. It's a phone, man. It does everything I need it to do. I'll get a new one when it breaks. I don't need one every 2 years. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, even your wife has confirmed that it is 2 years old only. Okay, but she was still resolute that she deserved a new phone despite the fact that it still worked fine. Before leaving, she yelled at us that we're supposed to be pampering her now that she's an old woman. She's 53. Right, okay. Logic checks out. My wife also didn't want to buy her mother the phone because she gave her money not long before to make sure her bills were paid. Okay, so you're already helping out this woman. But no, she wants a brand new smartphone. Great stuff. Now, I have quite a collection of vintage skeleton keys. And I mean good ones. Like ones to particular hotels, the large ornate sergeants, brass railroad keys, reading hardware, etc. My collection as a whole should easily be worth $2,000 to $3,000. Wow, I don't know much about skeleton keys at all. To be honest, I didn't really realize that they were collectible. Do they even exist anymore? Perhaps they do. Very interesting stuff. If you know more about that, comment down below. I clearly know nothing. Some of the keys are super rare. I kept them in a locked display cabinet. But a few days ago, I came home to find my entire collection was gone. The cabinet had been forced open. I checked the CCTV for the living room and I saw my mother-in-law force open the cabinet with a small crowbar. She then put all the keys in a couple of boxes that she brought with her and left with them. I called her right away and demanded that she return my collection. She nonchalantly told me that she sold the entire collection at pawn already and used the money for her new phone. Then said it was my fault. And she had to do it because I wouldn't give her the money. Wow. My wife was seemingly on my side until I said I was going to call the police. She begged me just to drop it and even suggested I just start a new collection, but I refused to let it go. A lot of those keys... Oh, I made a mistake there. My fault. But let's be honest. 12 minutes into the episode. Not bad, isn't it? A lot of those keys... Where were we? I've now completely lost my place. And that right there is the beauty of doing things live. I refuse to let it go. A lot of those keys are not only expensive, they're irreplaceable. I spent 10 years building that collection. Wow. But my wife kept blowing up at me and telling me to just let it go. So I slept in the guest room that night and sought online help the next day when my best friend told me to try Reddit. Okay, and here we are. I've been a lurker before, but making an account wasn't hard. My mother-in-law has been in trouble in the past, but this was the first time I know of that she'd outright stolen from us. I needed help, so I asked here. The resounding advice finally made me pull my head out of my bum to realize that I was the only one keeping my marriage afloat. Whoa, I did not expect that. It would likely never get any better if my wife wasn't on my side when her own mother steals something irreplaceable from me. You know what? I wasn't expecting that, but it does make sense. It does, and it does seem obviously as if your partner is, favoring her mum over you, even when she's done something that is just outright illegal. Does that make for a good relationship? I don't know. You could also argue though that from her perspective, she's just like, yes, I know she's done a terrible thing, but do we really need to get the police involved in a family matter? Which I guess makes sense. But then I would also say, why is she defending someone that's done that, even if it is her own mum, and then saying, oh, come on, just start a new collection? Like, surely as your wife, she knows how important this collection is to you. Maybe she doesn't, and that is the problem. Fair enough. Now, to answer some quick questions I got before. 1. How did my mother-in-law get into the house? My wife unilaterally gave her a key when we moved in. That's why. Okay, I think that's fine. I think parents are allowed to have keys to their children's houses. Obviously, if it's consensual, I think that's completely fine. I mean, I know that that's the case with I don't know if I should say this, but yeah, with our house, whatever, the family house. Anyway, number 2, why did I have CCTV cameras in the living room? Really? Wouldn't you do that if you had something valuable on display there? Yeah, maybe. To be fair, probably would. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of proof as to why you should have that. 3, is my mother-in-law on drugs? No idea. She's always been crazy. 4, did she steal from us before? Not that I've been able to tell, and I've checked everything I could think of. 5, what kind of phone did she get? Not a clue, but probably one of the cheaper smartphones with the amount of money she got selling my stuff, unless she's on a payment plan. Well, I thought you said they were worth, how much did you say the keys were worth? Like 2,000 or 3,000, didn't you? You can get any phone you want with that sort of money. A lot of gigabytes as well. 6, did my wife use my money to placate her mother before? Yes, she did. We primarily have separate accounts, but we do have a joint account we pay the bills with, so it's not used for savings. In 2 years of marriage, I'd say it's happened roughly 5 times. Every time my wife took money from the joint account for her mother, she always replaced it on her next payday. Okay, that's fair enough. Though in hindsight, I think she only did so because she knew I'd never let it go, because she would always have an attitude with me for a few days after. Really? That's interesting, isn't it? She'd be annoyed at you because she took your joint money to kind of like pay off her mum, who really isn't contributing or helping herself at all. That is odd. It really, really is odd. OP says that they were in a bad marriage fog before, but this whole situation has snapped me right out of it. And finally, number 7, will I lock down my credit? Already have. Though I'm not sure my wife or her mother would be so stupid to do something like that after my mother-in-law was recently arrested. Wait, so she's already been arrested? Oh my goodness me. Oh, she's actually got on the collection back and hidden it somewhere where my wife and mother-in-law have no idea where it is. I'll provide more detail in another post tomorrow. Okay, there we go. Couple of edits as well, or just one edit actually on this one to finish. Since it keeps being mentioned, yes, I did call the police. Yes, an arrest was made. Yes, my wife is a soon-to-be ex. Know that I'm taking many precautions right now. Oh my goodness me. The one thing I'm not sure about is whether the arrest that OP talked about up here, after getting recently arrested, is to do with this, as in OP calling the police on her mother-in-law, or a previous offence that her mother-in-law has made, and that's why it's recently arrested. We don't know for sure, but let's just get straight into the next part, because why not? We don't need to read the comments on this one. Let's just get straight into it. So here we go, part 2. My mother-in-law stole my collection of vintage skeleton keys to sell at pawn and buy herself a new phone. Right, let's get straight into it. Back to what happened that day. The police did come and they took my statement a bit over an hour after I called the non-emergency line. I had video footage and the documentation of my collection ready, and then there were some texts that I went out of my way to get from my mother-in-law to bait her into a confession. Very clever. I wanted as much evidence as possible so that she couldn't lie to the police. When I texted her demanding she get my collection back, she actually lolled and told me not a chance, and even boasted that she thought I was a pathetic son-in-law and my key collection was tacky anyway. Okay, that's ridiculous. I told her to at least tell me what pawn shop she sold the keys to. Oh, so I could go and buy them back and how much they paid her for them. Oh, I didn't even clock that. Oh no, hang on. The dimwit admitted it all right away with glee in text. Okay, good. That makes sense. There's a plan there. I had everything I needed for the police before they even showed up. I thought for a second that the way OP got his keys back was actually just by going and buying them back from that same pawn shop which his mother-in-law sold them to. But no, it was to gather evidence. Much cleverer than I had you down for, OP. Sorry about that. Anyway, the cops took the whole matter more seriously than I thought. I was worried they'd call it a civil matter since the thief was my mother-in-law and she had a key to the house. But they arrested her before long. And they went to the pawn shop before it closed to retrieve my collection. That is amazing news. I got it all back from the police after a couple of days. And for the moment, I put the collection in a safe, secure place that no one can get to. The pawn shop pretty much gave up the entire key collection to police right away, like it was a bag of hot potatoes. Though I scrutinized every important key that was brought back, as far as I can tell, it's all there. That was a huge sigh of relief. I took time off work and barely slept for 2 days because of this ordeal. I can absolutely imagine. Just going through this sort of thing is bad enough. But when it's your own mother-in-law, you must be questioning. Just like, what is going on here? How can she be doing this? Time off work and barely slept for 2 days because of this. I mean, ridiculous. Also, the cabinet that my mother-in-law broke into is pretty much a loss since she mangled the lock and doors prying it open. Thankfully, it wasn't an antique, just something I got used for $50. So I'm just going to take it to the dump sooner or later. Yeah, I mean, thankfully that's not the most expensive thing in the world, but still very annoying, right? I mean, yeah, it's $50, but you've got to get a new one and all that stuff, and it's probably something that you took a fancy to and liked. Annoying. From her text before, I found out that my mother-in-law sold the whole collection to the pawn shop for a whopping total of $300. Now, I don't know what emoji this is, but it's what is it? It's greater than or less than sign underscore greater than sign. For those of you listening on podcast platforms, I kind of describe it as just like an unimpressed cat face. Unimpressed, perhaps, is what I'm looking for. For a collection of hundreds of antique keys valued at 2 to 3 grand as a total, that low number felt like a punch in the gut to me. And that kind of, I guess, explains why you think, OP, that she got a pretty terrible phone, because, yeah, she's got a tenth worth of the value of what she sold, and it's only $300. So not only is she a thief, she's also just an idiot. What's the point of $300? I mean, it's not even that much money. Let's be honest, realistically, it's not that much if you're going to buy a phone. Insane. I'm not turning my nose up, by the way, at $300. If any of you want to donate that to me, I'll put my PayPal on screen now. Oh, wait, it's live. I can't. What a shame. But there you go. Still, not like loads of money to steal, right? To break the law for. Nonetheless, it's likely that the pawnbroker knew how valuable the collection could be as a whole. I mean, it's not like hitting a jackpot or anything, but money is still money. Yeah, if you can make like 2.7k or something, or even like 1.7k for this, that is the easiest money ever, especially when a dumb little lady walks in with a box of goodies. Anyone else hear Mr. Krabs laughing? Anyway, the cost of repayment to the shop was supposed to be on my mother-in-law, but my wife paid them back out of our joint account instead? Wow. Wow. From what the shop owner said, my mother-in-law told them the key collection belonged to her deceased husband, and she was sick of it sitting in storage. So they believed her. But just to be clear, she's not actually a widow. Her husband divorced her and left the state around 15 years ago. My mother-in-law lives off Social Security and food stamps. She also holds garage sales every few months, and she often demanded our soda and beer cans so she could get the deposit money of recycling them. She doesn't drive. She gets around on an electric scooter that tows a bicycle trailer. She lives in a long paid-off house, and she would not be having money troubles if she wasn't overspending every month. And she always counts on my wife to pick up the slack when she comes up short. My wife and I got into a huge fight when she got home because I had her mother arrested, but I told her I'm done with her enabling of her toxic mother. I said I was changing the locks ASAP and banning her mother from the house. And I also said that either we go to marriage counselling or I'd be inquiring about my options for separation from an attorney. I thought my wife would beg me not to do that, but instead she just called me horrible, packed a suitcase, and walked out to go to a motel. I just sat on the couch and let her go. She repeatedly looked like she was waiting for me to ask her to stay, but I didn't. In the morning, she texted me saying that she'd be bailing her mother out and wanted me to transfer her the money to pay for it since I was the one who got her mother arrested. Great logic there, man. When I said no, all I got was a sarcastic wow, and that was it. Not too long after, I had a gut feeling, and I checked the balance on the shared bank account, and my wife had taken out a lot of money. I wasn't sure if it was all that was needed for bail, so I called the pawn shop later. The owner confirmed that my wife had come in and paid him back the $300 that he'd paid her mother for the keys. He was also quite angry and said that he didn't want any of us in his shop ever again. I do not blame him. I understood his anger, and weirdly enough, I had a fairly long talk with this guy, and he understands now that I'm not part of the crazy. I tried to call and text my wife for hours, but she didn't answer. That evening, I managed to find her. I knew which motel she'd likely go to, and I was right. It was both cheap and not far away. Okay. I found her car and then figured out which room she was in. She looked positively shocked to see me when she opened the door. I confronted her about the money that she'd used from our shared account. She basically said that since I refused to pay her mother's bail after I was the one who had her arrested, she got the money from me another way. I mean, really? That doesn't make any sense. Also, it's not fair. Also, here's a question. Is that illegal? I mean, I don't think it is. You can just take money from a joint account, I presume. It is a joint account, therefore you both have access to it in your relationship, or, you know, whoever has access to the joint account. So I presume it's completely fine, but it's still not great, isn't it? Still not great. She said that since I refused to pay her mother's bail after I was the one who had her arrested, she got the money from me another way. Ridiculous. Anyway, then she smugly stated that she wasn't paying that money back into the shared account this time, and told me that's the karma I get before shutting the door in my face. Then said, leave through... Hang on, where are we? I've completely lost where I am. Then said through the door that she'd call the cops on me if I didn't leave. The smug look she'd given me reminded me of nasty teenage girls when they get their way. It really ticked me off. I did not expect this, by the way, from her. I really didn't. I know at first she was like, oh, come on, it's not worth it. Let's not get the police involved. But I thought that would be like sort of apologetic and her admitting that her mother is a terrible person and has done a terrible thing here. But okay, let's just leave it. We don't have to talk to her again. Let's just chill out. I'm really sorry this has happened, but you know, we don't have to get the police involved. It's just a family matter and she is who she is. That's fine. I'm on your side. But this is completely different. I mean, she's taking the side of her mum, a lot like in the first story, to be fair, who has just done something illegal. It's just dumb. Anyway, OP continues. I already knew my marriage was pretty much over, but that night, it really sank in. I had a long sit down with some old video games and cola to think about my future. The house is rented, so I'm not renewing my half of the lease and will soon be apartment hunting. The last month of the lease is March, but I may leave sooner depending on how soon I can find an apartment. We have no kids yet, thank God, so that is another thing that I currently have in my favour. The next day, I changed the locks on the house and removed all of my money from the joint bank account, and I stopped all automated payments to and from it. I made sure to take only the amount of money that I'd put into the account. There was still more than enough in it for me to break even and still leave the minimum required balance on the account. Either way, the cost of my mother-in-law's bail and paying back the pawn shop was now entirely out of my wife's pocket now, and I don't think she's noticed yet, but it shouldn't be long. Now that is just obviously great news. I would love to know what happens when she does realise, by the way, and I think that might be coming up in the third part, or at least the new post from OP about this same story. So look out for that. I mean, to be fair, right now I'm in the same spot as you. I'm in as live a position as you are, waiting for that. I hope that's the case. That should be very, very good. It shouldn't be long. Okay, good. I hope it's not too long. OP has been to a couple of different divorce lawyers already, and I picked the second one since the first seemed like they were only there for a paycheck. I'll have the divorce papers served soon. I loved my wife, but it's clear she didn't love me. Yeah, I mean, well, maybe she did love you, but clearly she prioritized her mum more and probably loved her mum more, which says a lot about her as a person. So, OP can't stay with her anymore. She can have her thieving, hoarder mummy all to herself now. We both have very comparable incomes, so I'll be pushing for a clean split divorce. This woman didn't deserve me, and I fell for her act. She didn't want a husband, she wanted an insurance plan. Wow. Imagine that as a sentence, by the way. Brutal. I'll be clear on this. I will not be changing my mind about divorce. My soon-to-be ex-wife can beg and love bomb all she wants, if she even bothers to. I've never been her number one, and I'm not going to settle for being number two in my own marriage. It is over. Wow. Phenomenal scenes. And got to say, OP, mad respect. Mad respect for just saying, you know what, no, I'm not dealing with this. Insert curse word here. In fact, I can do it right now. Not dealing, I mean, this is risky doing this live, by the way. This is really risky. But I'm going to give it a go. And if there's a swear word in here, that's the beauty of doing it live. Not dealing with this shit. I think we got there. There we go. Phenomenal story. Really, really is. OP has included one edit as well at the end. Yes, I asked the landlord to allow me to change the locks. He was all for it when I told him what happened. All I had to do was mail him a copy of the new key. He does not want my mother-in-law to ever have a key to the house again. Now, that is actually something that I didn't think of. Hang on a second. Let me have a quick drink here. Because what I was saying before about your family having keys to your house and stuff, that is if you own your house and you make the decision yourself. When it comes to renting a house, are you allowed to do that? Like, surely I'm not allowed to just copy the key of the flat that I rent in and just give it to my parents or, you know, children or whatever. Am I? Maybe with the landlord's consent you are. I mean, presumably that is what happened here, but I guess as a landlord, it can open you up to these sort of risks of just random people who in theory, yes, should be fine. But in reality, you probably even haven't met them coming into your property and stealing things from your tenants, even though that shouldn't happen. But yeah, you don't want to get into sort of the details between your tenants and their family members and have that be something you got to deal with like it is here. That sounds less than ideal, but there you go. Let's have a look at the comments. Let's have a look at the comments here. And guys, as always, get your comments in on these stories, because now more than ever, I will have to have a look through them. So not that I'll have to, I will want to. Terrible phrasing there. But you know what I mean. I will want to go and have a look through all of them and see what you guys are saying. Someone says, I'm so sorry. However justified, it still hurts. Now, that is true. OP has taken this really well. In fact, they've said below, I've become numb to the pain now, but it was bad when it hit. Yeah, I mean, like kind of the bravery, the courage of this last sort of couple of paragraphs here was admirable. I still feel awful for you. But as long as you're like allowing yourself time to actually, I don't know, I don't want to say take the L, but feel how bad this is and understand that what's happened to you is brutally unfair and just a horrible situation. That's good. Don't just come at it purely with logic, if you can help it. I say that as someone who probably does that myself. But yeah, there you go. Someone else said, I'm glad you got your keys back. As for the divorce, you should go through the bank records and highlight all the money she has given her mother over the course of your relationship. You could try and recover half of it or have it taken out of any settlement. Now that is a good shout. The problem is here that if your ex-wife was putting the money back into your account eventually, then I don't know. I mean, it depends on like what the legalities and laws are with joint accounts. What's OP said here? All the money my wife gave to her mother till recently was her own. She always paid back what she gave her mother out of the joint bank account until this recent incident. Exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying. So you probably can't claim back all that money because you got the money back anyway. And also it's out of a joint account anyway. But there we go. OP says, I have all my money and my credit is locked down. So no worries there. Okay. That is good. That is good to hear. And then finally, I'll read this. Somebody says, you got my mum arrested. No, actually, your mum chose to do illegal things and finally had to suffer the real consequences. That is it. I couldn't have summed it up better myself. Exactly that. I hate it when people place blame on the one pressing charges when they have every right to do so. If the perpetrator hadn't committed an actual crime against them, there wouldn't have been a need for charges to be filed in the first place. Doesn't matter if it's your mum, your dog, your pet rat, by the way. And who knows? It is a rodent-infested house. Or was that the previous story? Or was that this one? I'm not sure. Nonetheless, having rats in your house is disgusting. But it doesn't matter who it is. If it's illegal, you're allowed to press charges. I mean, look, how many times do you see family members call the police on their own family members? Or partners call the police on their own partner? That is the point. Like, you're allowed to do that. Just because you know the person doesn't mean it's not illegal. So, there we go. But as I mentioned, guys, and you know what? Let's just cut back to full screen for a second. There is one more post from this same user, who once again, I'll remind you, their username is My Keys Were Stolen. It's just brilliant. Who has come at us with one more post from this story. Without further ado, let's get into it. Had my wife served for divorce since she sided with her key-stealing, entitled mother. So, the divorce had happened. I know I already called her his ex, but I don't think that had happened yet. I guess this is now going to be the story of the divorce and what exactly happened. And to be honest, I kind of hope that the entitled mum plays some sort of role in this saga. All right, here we go. Just because I found the thought of it humorous, I'll be referring to my wife as wifey a lot from now on. Goodness me. Also, I know I seem like I'm posting too fast, but remember this originally started around 10 days ago and I've not wasted time in getting the divorce started. Wow. Okay, really? Is that true? This was 3 days ago. How many days ago was the original post? 5 days ago. Okay, so yeah, we've gone 5 days ago for the first post, 4 days ago for part 2, And then 3 days ago, at the time of recording for this one. But I mean, if you know everything that's happened and it's moving along and you've got some spare time during this process, might as well chuck it on Reddit for a little bit of karma, I say. You've done the right thing there, OP, aka my keys were stolen. Okay. It really did not take me long, says OP, to find and hire a divorce lawyer. And she's mean. Yes, my lawyer is a woman. And she seems pretty good at her job. She asked me a couple of times if I was really sure I wanted to do this. But once I explained my full story to her and showed her some evidence, she agreed with me when I said I wanted to start as soon as possible. So she got the ball rolling. Oh, this divorce is going to cost me. But I don't care. I'll rebuild my savings later as a free man. Wow, I mean, that's another point that I've not really thought of. Might be very expensive, but it's the principle. It is. You cannot let your mother-in-law or your wife get away with this. You just can't. I didn't even want to rent the house that I'm currently living in anyway, but wifey pushed for that. I'd have been happy staying in our old apartment that we used to share until we could actually afford to buy a house together instead. But obviously now that's never happening. I'll be paying a lot less for an apartment once we separate. Okay, at least you'll be making a saving there then. Before coming home, wifey spent some time at a cheap motel when she bailed her mother out of jail. And she even threatened to call the police on me when I went to see her there. Goodness me. As OP said before, they changed the locks with the landlord's permission while wifey was still away and sent her a text saying I'd done so. But I guess that she'd not bothered to look since she never responded. So upon returning home, she ended up pounding on the door and screaming at me to let her in. I just watched her through the doorbell cam and let her keep it up for a while before she finally got on her phone to call me. I was already walking home from having had dinner with my best friend when she called, and I pointed out the text that she'd not bothered to read. When I got home to let her in, she was puffy-cheeked, teary-eyed, and red with a bit of a cat butt face. Now that really does paint a picture. I had a new key ready to give her, and I told her that if she gave a copy to her mother again, I'd be notifying our landlord, as they were already very angry that she'd given her mother a key to begin with. There we go. There we go. Now, I think that if I was to do that, going back to what I was saying earlier, if I was to do that in my current flat without my landlord's permission, that would definitely go against my contractual agreement, I'm sure. I'm sure it would. And I'd probably lose the deposit. I mean, I don't know for sure. Obviously, I haven't done it. I'm not going to try and do it. But I reckon I'd be losing, well, at least money. And maybe, I don't know, I'd be getting like some not sued, but you know what I mean? Like, it must be in the contract that you're not allowed to do that. Fair play to the landlord, to be fair, for seemingly being pretty chill about it. But I guess OP continues here, saying that they're not sure what the landlord could have done. I reckon that, you know, delving into the contract, there probably was stuff they could have done. Anyway, it was enough to make my wife, or wifey, as OP says, comply for the moment. Plus, I'm not going to be living here much longer anyway. Okay, that is fair enough. My mother-in-law still believes that she did absolutely nothing wrong and is playing victim to wifey every chance she gets. Oh my God. Still now she believes she's done nothing wrong? Are you serious? Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Just ridiculous. How? How after having the police call on you, being arrested, this all going on, do you still think you've done nothing wrong? She's not allowed over anymore for obvious reasons. Good. And I've been repeatedly called a monster by her and wifey. I've never been more glad that my mother-in-law has no friends. I wonder why. Because then she'd be telling them all her convoluted version of the story to paint me as a villain. I just know it. She was told how much my key collection is roughly worth and what kind of felony charges she could be facing. Though my collection was returned fully intact, she may therefore get the charges lessened. I'd like to hope that she gets a decent punishment at least, but I'm not really counting on the system to throw the book at a manipulator like her. As I said in my previous post, wifey also paid her mother's bail and what she owed to the pawn shop with money out of our joint bank account, and then smugly told me that she wouldn't be putting the money back. Basically, That was a terrible power move and her only way to try and put all the cost on me. I've since removed everything I had in that account and stopped all future payments to it so she can't spend my money too. And I've changed my passwords to pretty much everything. She flipped the heck out on me for it once she finally checked the account a couple of days ago, because that meant that what she paid for for my mother-in-law's bail and reimbursing the pawn shop was all in her money only. Okay, good. So it wasn't too long later that she found out that she'd been absolutely duped by you. Phenomenal stuff. Now, there was no more access to my funds to supplement her own with. I just ignored her tantrum and went into the home office to watch anime on my computer. Can you imagine, like, OP, headphones on, chilling out, watching whatever, Dragon Ball Z or something, and just got his wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, just smashing on the door, saying, "What are you doing? You made me pay for my own mum? What?" And him just chilling back, watching his favourite show. Brilliant, brilliant scenes. Oh, there you go. Oh, wow, that actually is exactly what happened. She banged on the door for a while, demanding I talk to her. I just stayed quiet and put on headphones. Literally. I promise you, I didn't actually see that line before just saying that. Brilliant scenes. Really, really good. Wifey has repeatedly demanded I drop all charges against her mother, and even said, if I really loved her, I would not only stop all of this, I'd cover the cost too. Wow. I would act shocked that she said that. Oh wait, I've read the entire story up to this point. When I kept refusing, she moved into the spare bedroom. She tried to kick me out of the master bedroom first, but I made it clear I'm not giving up the master bedroom when she's the one at fault. She tried to start taking my stuff out, but I just blocked her while pointing my finger at her face and said no, like I was talking to a dog. What, just like, no? How patronizing is that? But also how good. She ended up crying, good, and saying I was demeaning her, good. But I didn't care. Exactly. Then, for some more deception on her part, she admitted to me out of pure spite that until this mess had started, she'd been planning on letting her mother come live with us full time soon because of the state of her hoarder house. What, so instead of just, getting a cleaner, or better yet, telling her mum, your house is disgusting, any risk of cleaning it, she said, no, look, abandon that house. No one can live in it apart from boxers and rats. Come and live with us instead and probably turn our house into a tip. Great idea. Ridiculous. She boasted that she was just going to move her in while I was at work. I told her we were supposed to be equal partners before this all happened, and I was sick of her unilateral decision making. And as long as I'm paying 50% of the lease, her mother will not be living here. And if she tried, I'd throw all her mother's stuff out immediately. Wifey looked like she wanted to explode and stormed off to have a drink and a loud phone call with her mother in the kitchen. I just started removing her stuff from the master bedroom and I left it in the other room for her. I've put a new lock on the door to the master bedroom too. Oh God. So now you're having to put internal locks on doors. This is not pretty, but it is understandable and probably for the best. I had wifey served at her job. Oh my God. Which she said really embarrassed her in front of her colleagues. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, that might be a little bit too far. What do you think? Is that necessary? It's not to do with her work, is it? It's not. I think that, I think that might be a little bit too far. Comment down below. Is that, I think that's just a bit too petty, personally. I do. I think that's uncalled for. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, OP has been getting absolutely shagged throughout this entire story by his wife and her mum. But is there a need to do this to people that are just not involved at all and embarrass her like a lot and maybe jeopardize her employment? I mean, it wouldn't, but just the way that people might think about her in future and what does her relationship say about her as a person, and if her ex-husband is serving her at work, then people can think about these sort of things and jump to conclusions or whatever. I don't necessarily think that was necessary. I've said necessary a lot there because I mean it. Comment down below on that one, guys, because I'm actually not sure. Right. She flipped out on me again once she got home. Apparently, she didn't take my threats of divorce seriously until those papers were actually in her hands. She said I couldn't do this, but I told her I was done. She made it more than clear where she stands. I told her I learned a rather interesting phrase online. When people show you who they really are, believe them. And she's clearly shown me who she really is. And it is not the woman I fell in love with. That woman disappeared and got replaced with an entitled mummy's girl who refuses to act her age right after we got married, which makes it pretty obvious she did that intentionally. Ah, I see. At this point, I don't think she ever loved me, just my wallet. I can't stay married to a woman who conned me into marrying her. Then she started screaming at me that she wasn't a gold digger. So I asked her if she'd have been inclined to stay married to me if I'd done all the same things to her. Now that one there actually is not my fault. OP, you should check your work there, my friend, because you've just put, and this is very petty from me, nearly as petty as OP was earlier, you've put a "the," which didn't need to be there. So whose fault is that for getting that wrong? Maybe OP was right in being as petty as that, because I'm showing my petty colours there. Anyway, sorry. She tried to deny it at first, then looked around like she was trying to find a better answer. Then she just gaslit to deflect as usual, but I had none of it. The one thing I would say with this was, I thought you said that you guys had pretty similar incomes or take homes. But then again, she is the one that is obviously spending a lot more than you. I mean, yeah, obviously the amount of money you actually earn has, in theory, no relation to how much you spend. You could spend very little money, OP, who knows? And OP is clearly spending a lot of money on her mum in particular. So I get it. That does make sense. Okay. I told her right then and there that I am not renewing the lease on the house with her because I don't want to live with a petulant woman child that I can't trust. And if she wants to keep the house, she can go ahead and start a new lease to move her mother in once I'm gone. Finally, that is when the real waterworks started. She said I was destroying our family. And I said, what family? Wow. And pointed out how we don't have kids and her mother is more important to her than me. We have no family. Then I just walked away. She loudly cried in the living room for hours, but I ignored her. Let me guess. Back to the computer, headphones on, more anime, finish the series. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Now she is giving me the hardcore silent treatment and will not look me in the eyes. I'm actually enjoying it, which just seems to make her angrier. Wonderful stuff. As an added bonus, I warned my current landlord about wifey wanting to move her mother in. I gave him all the details I had about her, the state of her hoarder house, and how much of a deceptive mummy's girl wifey is. And I warned him that if he let my mother-in-law live in any property he owns, she would turn it into an utter disaster. He thanked me for telling him and is now not going to let her renew the lease on her own, my wifey that is, if she tries. He'll be advertising the property soon. Wifey has no idea yet and likely would have only just barely been able to afford the house with her mother's help anyway. Finally, one more thing. Yesterday, somebody warned me to take my name off the joint bank account entirely so I would not be on the hook for any overdraft. I took that to heart and went to the bank to get it done. It only took a few minutes to do it, and the bank is 10 minutes away by car. All good now. I've been working from home lately, so I had the time. All statements from the account were already printed and given to my lawyer too, so I can wash my hands of it. There we go. That is the end of the story. Now, let's get into a couple of edits here, just to finish things off. OP has said, I don't know if it's the same rules everywhere, but the bank had no problem removing my name from the account as a co-signer when I pushed for it. There were no debts on the account, and I had plenty more than the minimum balance. The bank likely did tell my ex-wife, but whether or not she knows I did it, doesn't matter. She's not currently talking to me. And the second one, edit 2, I've noticed a few comments pointing out how it was completely unnecessary I pointed out that my lawyer is a woman. You know what? I didn't think about that at the time, but fair enough. Yeah, that is true. Looking back on it, I did write that like a complete jerk. I was just rather excited in the moment about it. Not an excuse, I acknowledge that, but how quickly this lawyer helped me just made me so happy. I'll make sure to not sound like such an idiot when speaking of her again from now on. Yeah, fair enough. I didn't really think too much about it, to be fair, but it just sounded as if you were saying she's a badass, and I respect her a lot. Didn't really have to do with her gender, but there you go. I guess this kind of shows that OP is a nice guy, right? unlike the other two women in this story. That's going to do it then for that story. Now, there is one more still to come. Do you want a quick sneak peek of it? A little quick sneak peek? Here we go. This is it. You put my child in danger, somehow I'm the issue. But before we get into that, the last story of this episode, I just got to give my thoughts on this overall, don't I, really? Live, as I said I would do. Genuine initial reactions, as I said in the intro of this episode. What do I think? Well, to be honest, there's not really much to say, is there? Apart from just like, you've handled this amazingly, OP. You've been shafted by your wife and her mum, and it's just sad. I guess you could argue that like you've done this quickly enough and you've gotten through this quickly enough to move on with your life. And as you said, you have no lasting connections to her really at all. I mean, you don't have children. You're going to be divorced, but that's fine. There's no kind of repercussions there. It also sounds like you'll be okay with money as well, which is good. And I mean, there are clear positives here. You are getting out of a relationship with someone who, yes, you found out didn't love you, but who knows? Maybe the relationship wasn't actually that good when you look back on it. You said about marriage fog. Who knows? Or was that story one? I don't know. Very, very similar, these two stories, to be fair. The person that you're with, you thought was great, but in reality, when their mother got involved and you started understanding that they loved their mother more than you, that was a bit too far. Quite similar. But yeah, I mean, you can just move on, I think. It's not the end for you. In fact, see it as a beginning, I would say. I mean, what do you guys think? Comment down below. It is very, very sad that this person clearly has married you for the money. I don't know. I would say as well, how did you let that happen? But I think that would be a little naive because it's happened to the best of us. And who knows, it could even happen to me one day. Let's have a look at a few comments. Someone has said, I can kind of relate to you. My ex told me after the divorce that she only married me because she knew I'd be making good money. There we go. That's kind of sad, isn't it? But I guess kind of just, supports my point. It took over 30 years before I'd even talk with her. What? Oh my goodness. Kind of over it now, but it took a long time. Happily been together with my new wife now for many years, and we'll be together until death do us part. There we go, my friend. There we go. That right there. Use excellent_ad1132 is life as an example to what you can have. Very sad what you've gone through, but there is light at the end of the proverbial tunnel that is life and divorce. There we go. Right, let's move on now to the final story of this one. Back on our /entitledparents. You put my child in danger. Somehow I'm the issue. Here we go. So there is a ton of context here that is absolutely going to be missing. A great start to any story. But I'll provide what I can to help with this specific story. But Lord, there is a lot. Right, let's get into it. I am a 28-year-old man. My mum, who is 58, has been an alcoholic my entire adult life and most of my teenage life. Of course, she's been sober for long stretches and has slips. It's just how addiction is for many people, yet fair enough. Especially those who don't seek out help. Okay, less fair enough. When she's drinking, Mum is the most entitled, self-centered person I know. Some context. She'd been in the hospital in March/April for an artery rupture in her liver. That is March-April 2023. To this day, she denies that her history of drinking and her current drinking have anything to do with it. Okay. Now, I will happily say here that I think that alcoholics get a bad rap, and it is a disease. And people with other diseases, no one says, oh my God, it's a disgrace that you have this disease. Do they? It is an illness. It is a sickness, is kind of what I'm saying. Like, we shouldn't look negatively on people that are alcoholics. However, you can do things to help yourself. In the same way that if you are ill, you can do things to help yourself by getting treatment. It's the same with alcoholism. If you are saying, oh, it's not like my drinking has not caused or has not in some way added to my, artery rupture in your liver, then you are an idiot. You just are. Like, that is obviously that's going to be one of the major causes of any liver issues is drinking so much. So I have no like, if she's saying that, I have no sympathy for her. Sorry. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Fast forward anyway to summer 2023. Mum seems to be back on track with sobriety. She gets on well with my fiance and has been a big support to my fiance's pregnancy. I made sure that Mum was there for the birth of her newest grandbaby. All seemed to be well. Mum insists that she watches my baby for us after fiance's leave ends, and we are skeptically receptive to the idea. Ultimately, we decide to allow this. Maybe the baby will help her maintain sobriety. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, that is... Yeah. I mean, having now read the title, obviously, just to recap, you put my child in danger, somehow I'm the issue. Now reading all about this... God, that is extremely, extremely worrying. Oh, well. Okay. I get a call from my sister who tells me my mum has been drinking. Not with or around the baby, but it's happening. Yep, I'm not going to allow this to go on any further. I'm about 3 hours away from my car. I drive dirt trucks, and I can't get there fast enough to make sure my baby girl is safe, so I call my father-in-law. He was kind enough to pick up my daughter and keep it on the down low to not hurt my mum's feelings. If there's one thing Mum isn't, it's dumb. I have to disagree. Like, I have to. Based on what we've seen so far. Maybe she's smart in different ways. But saying that a big liver issue is not to do with drinking is dumb. Just a fact. Sorry, but there we go. She sees through all of this and knows exactly what's up. Okay, fair enough. Not that hard to see through then, realistically. We find a new sitter and do what we can. We maintain incredibly low contact. A couple of months later, I get a call from my sister just to talk. The conversation, of course, comes to my mum. My sister tells me a story about my mum begging to watch her kids, but an hour before she was supposed to, she instead chose to drink before having to go and watch my sister's kids. This happened years ago. I don't know how I got this mixed up, but apparently I somehow confused this with mum choosing to drink and drive with her kids. I don't know. I suppose I was emotional and got things mixed up. Remember this point. It's important for the end. Okay, so are you saying that when she told you this, you misconstrued it? I think that's what you're saying. Okay, I'll remember that. On the bright side, though, at the time of this phone call, Mum is doing better again. Maybe it would give her something to look forward to if we allowed her to watch the baby once a week. Knowing where this is going, it's just horrible, isn't it? Again, like... It's a tough spot for you guys because obviously you want your mum to be a part of your baby's life. Yes, she has her issues, but it doesn't seem as if you think she's a bad person and you're trying to help her as much as you can. But yeah, as we're going to see, I presume, it is going to be dangerous, which is ultimately just really sad. I approached Mum and offered to her that my fiance and I felt comfortable with her taking the baby 1 day a week. This conversation, though, goes sour. How? So, we decided that we would be comfortable with you taking the baby on Tuesdays. I know you've been really wanting to watch her again, we said. No, she replied. No? Well, first, I want you to ask me. This kind of confuses me a bit at first, but I suppose it is a fair statement. She is doing something to help me after all, right? Yeah, I guess so. All right, okay. I'll rephrase, I say. Would you be willing to take the baby on Tuesdays? It would be a big help and you'd get to see her more again. No, I want it all. If I can't have every day, then I won't take her at all. Again, I have to just think back to when you said, OP, that your mum was not dumb. Probably the dumbest thing I've ever read. Like, so dumb. You want your child's baby every day. What, so their actual parent just never sees them then? So dumb. Okay, this devolves into an argument where she tries to justify her actions in drinking and accuses me of holding the baby over her head. She throws in, "How dare you call your fiance's father to take her from me? I was not drinking that day." Truth, not even after they left, which was a lie. Ah, I see. Remember that phone call with my sister from earlier, the one with the mixed stories? Well, here is where that mix-up bit me in the butt. I threw the story that I thought was true in her face. I'm not proud of it, not at all. This, of course, turned into denial and further argument, with her conveniently forgetting that regardless of whether or not a car was involved, she ultimately chose to forgo the responsibility she claimed to want so that she could drink. That's actually valid. Yes, the story that you said was wrong, but the gist is kind of correct, really, isn't it? It is still her, in effect, drinking rather than doing something like, sensible. Really. That makes sense? Yeah, I think so. Right. I finally had to stop this whole argument by saying that this was getting nowhere, and she could call me when she was ready to address the problem like an adult. That call happened the next day, but that is for the next post. I just want to end this post here and say that I love my mother. When she's sober, she's the most amazing woman I know, but that alcohol turns her into the most narcissistic and entitled beast of a human I have ever seen. If the community wants more, I'd be willing to continue telling this story from the phone call the next day all the way to what's happening now as things progress. It gets weird and frustrating, but telling this has been oddly cathartic. Now, this was sadly posted just one day ago, and at the time of recording, we don't have that update, so I can't get into that right now, but I'll definitely look out for it in the future if you guys enjoyed that one. Let's have a look at the comments before we end this episode. You are a parent, someone has said. The safety and well-being of your child takes precedence over everything, especially when they're too young and vulnerable to assert their own self-autonomy. Do what you have to do to protect your child. Everyone else's feelings outside of you, your partner, and that child are beyond irrelevant. OP has said, thank you. It's a good reminder when things get tough. Now, again, I think that is completely valid, and obviously I agree with that statement. But I do also feel for OP, as I said earlier. You're really trying to help out your mum, who is in a terrible, terrible spot, again, with an awful illness which ruins so many lives, and you're trying to help her. What are you supposed to do? You can't allow your baby to obviously ever be in danger. But the alternative is you just say to your mum that you can never look after our baby, your granddaughter, your grandchild, until either you're completely sober or we just have to be there with you. And I guess that is a compromise, which is sad for you because you want to help her. But ultimately, yeah, as this user said, the safety of your immediate family, as in your partner and your child, is of paramount importance. And it's not your child's fault that your grandma can't, or his or her grandma can't take care of her. And yeah, you cannot jeopardize that. So it's very sad, but sadly, that is what you're going to have to do. Wait until the kid's older. Wait until your mum sorts herself out. Help her in another way. Give her some sort of ultimatum and say, look, you need to go to some form of rehab or therapy or AA meetings or some way of helping her out before you can have an active role in your grandchild's life. Tough spot, but it has to be done. Right. Anyway, that is going to do it for this one. Thanks, guys, for watching and listening through this entire thing. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.